Let's call to order the November 18th, 2021 Plan Commission. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Crompton?
Here.
Mr. Kella?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Perez?
Here.
Ms. Rohr? Here. Mr. Rusinellis?
Here.
Mr. Wonderlich?
Here.
First order of business would be approval of minutes from the October 21st, 2021 Plan Commission meeting.
Do I have the motion for the minutes? So
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
call the roll.
Mr. Crompton?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr? Aye. Mr. Rusinellis?
Aye.
Mr. Wonderlich?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Kella?
Aye.
Okay, hi everyone. Nice to see everyone here again. Before we start the meeting, we're going to go through a few things just so everybody understands what's going on and so everyone's on the same page. So, the public is given 2 opportunities to speak. At the beginning of the meeting, citizens will be heard on agenda items. At the end of the meeting, public comments. The rules for public speaking are: speaker should try to address all comments to the committee as a whole, the commission as a whole, and not to any individual member. Repetitive comments will be discouraged and cut off. No comment time for any one person is more than 4 minutes. No speaker shall engage in a debate or make direct threats or personal attacks or be uncivil or abusive. And we may limit irrelevant, immaterial, or inappropriate comments or statements. Now, everybody knows that there's also a public hearing today. Now, the rules for public comment during the public hearing are the same, except there is no 4-minute time limit. Everyone will be given a reasonable amount of time to present their evidence and ask any questions of the petitioners that they wish. But other than that, the same rules apply. So, we did ask people to sign up, just so we can know who's speaking and keep an orderly flow of the meeting. If you didn't sign up, you will still be allowed to talk. You can still sign up later on during the meeting if you decide you want to talk. It's entirely up to you guys. And with that, we'll go ahead and proceed with the meeting.
First order of business, if you don't mind, I would like to bring up the Centerpoint petitions. They've asked for full tabling, so for A1221, annexation of 10 acres west of Brandon Road, classification ITC, intermodal terminal industrial park zoning, Z621, reclassification of 5.225 acres northwest of Brandon Road from ITA, intermodal terminal, to ITB, intermodal terminal transportation equipment zoning, and reclassification of 7.615 acres from ITC, intermodal terminal industrial park, to ITB, intermodal terminal transportation equipment zoning. Z721, reclassification of 15.936 acres located west of Brandon Road from ITA, intermodal terminal, to ITB, intermodal terminal transportation equipment zoning, and reclassification of 26.684 acres from ITC, intermodal terminal industrial park, to ITB, intermodal terminal transportation equipment zoning. Z821, reclassification of 8.8187 acres west of Brandon Road from ITA, intermodal terminal to ITC, intermodal terminal industrial park zoning. V321, vacation of a portion of Schweitzer Road west of Union Pacific Railroad. V421, vacation of abandoned Brandon Road north of Schweitzer Road. P1021, revised preliminary plat of Centerpoint Intermodal Center at Joliet Brandon Amendment Subdivision. FP721, final plat of Centerpoint Intermodal Center at Joliet Subdivision Phase 25. Petitioner, Centerpoint Joliet Terminal Railroad, LLC, is requesting that their agenda items listed above be tabled to the December 16th Plan Commission meeting. The city administration supports this request.
Okay, we have a motion, or may have a motion for A1220-21, Z-621, Z-721, Z-821, V-321, V-421, P-1021, and FP721.
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr? Aye. Mr. Rusinellis?
Aye.
Mr. Wonderlich?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Crompton?
Aye.
Mr. Kellogg?
Aye.
Next order of business under new business, A1121, annexation of 61.45 acres located west of Chicago Street at Emerald Drive, classifications I-1 light industrial zoning, and approval of an annexation agreement. Z521, reclassification of 5.436 acres of the west side of Chicago Street at Emerald Drive and Marcella Avenue from B3 general business to I-1 light industrial zoning. And P921, preliminary plat of Cadence Crossing subdivision, which is on the west side of Chicago Street at Emerald Drive. That is being requested to be tabled, but the other two items are under discussion. So under general information, the applicant and owners are All In Campus LLC. Status of the applicant is property owners. Requested action, approval of an annexation, classification to I-1 light industrial zoning, and approval of an annexation agreement, as well as an approval of a zoning reclassification from B3 general business to I-1 light industrial zoning. The purpose is to allow a logistics development that includes truck and trailer parking, warehousing, and truck repair and maintenance. Location is west of Chicago Street at Emerald Drive. Size is 61.45 acres, that's the annexation request. The 5.46 acres, that's the zoning reclassification request. Existing land use is undeveloped and residential. Existing zoning is B3 general business and unincorporated Will County zoning. Proposed zoning is I-1 light industrial. Surrounding land use and zoning, to the north is unincorporated Will County zoning and its residential use. To the south is B3 general business and I-1 light industrial, medical office, and undeveloped land use. To the east is unincorporated Will County zoning and I-1 light industrial with residential and truck maintenance use. To the west is I-2 general industrial, and there is a quarry there. Under site history, the 5.46 acre property subject to the zoning reclassification request was annexed and zoned B3 general business in 1998 and was never developed. Under special information, Cadence Premier Logistics, a trucking and logistics company operates a multi-use development along the northeast and southeast corners of Illinois 53 and Emerald Drive. Company seeks to expand its business operations to the west side of Illinois 53 and Emerald Drive with a 66.581 acre development. In order to develop this new western campus of Cadence Premier Logistics, the applicant seeks approval of a zoning reclassification of 5.46 acres and annexation of 61.45 acres. The applicant also intends to seek approval of a preliminary plat of subdivision, vacations of unbuilt right-of-way to move forward with their overall concept plan for this western campus at a future date. The proposed zoning for the development of the western campus is I-1 light industrial. Concept plan for this western campus of Cadence Premier Logistics, which is included with the staff report packet. Shows land that is currently under other ownership and is not included in the overall 66.581 acre development subject to the zoning reclassification and annexation requests. Concept plan for this future western campus includes a truck and trailer parking marshaling center with 350 trailer stalls and 366 tractor trailer stalls, a 202,500 square foot multi-tenant warehouse with office space that will have approximately 90 loading docks, 112 truck stalls, and 160 vehicle stalls, and a 299,200 square foot multi-use pit stop facility that includes a 7-bay truck and trailer repair operation, new and used truck and trailer sales, parts storage, and restaurant. This facility will have approximately 190 vehicle parking stalls, 66 truck parking stalls, and 58 loading docks. City of Joliet zoning ordinance requires special use permits for truck and trailer parking, freight cartage, truck repair facilities, and the sale of new and used trucks and trailers. Petitioner is seeking a recommendation for these approvals from the Zoning Board of Appeals at their meeting earlier today, and those were recommended for approval by the zoning board. The future development would require a connection to city water and sewer. In addition, public improvements, landscaping, screening, paving, curbing, City lighting and adherence to the city's non-residential design standards will be required as per city ordinances. Sewer and water connection fees and developer impact fees will also be required for the future development. The development will be subject to the city's payment in lieu of taxes fee. Petitioner has submitted a draft annexation agreement, which is being reviewed by city staff. Through the approval of this final annexation agreement, the petitioner may be requesting waivers from the city council on the payment of fees such as the pilot fee and on the fulfillment of other ordinance requirements. And that concludes our staff report.
May we have the petitioner, please? Give your name and address.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is John Philip Chuck. I'm an attorney with offices at 111 East Jefferson Avenue in Naperville, Illinois. I'm here this afternoon with our president and CEO of Cadence Premier Logistics, Rocky Kaler. Also, Kristen Bruns from Jacob and Hefner, our civil engineers. And then we have Kelly Connolly with Sam Schwartz, our traffic engineer.
Sure, they just mentioned me, I have to swear you in, so. Do you promise, what we're using for swear?
Just tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Previous statements are part of my sworn testimony. Thank you, sir. And as the staff has pointed out, we have an existing Joliet business over in the Laramie Crossings development, and that is the Cadence Logistics and our pit stop facility. We operate a trucking company that does point-to-point distribution throughout the country. This is not in any way tied into the intermodals or anything. We don't do that kind of traffic. And so what we are proposing here is an expansion of our existing business. We're able to acquire this property on the west side of Chicago, and as a result, we are setting it up to have a marshaling yard center, which is where we are able to park our equipment. The way that Cadence operates their equipment, they buy brand new tractors and they turn them over repeatedly before their warranties run out, so that they have used equipment to then sell to other trucking interests that have years remaining as far as mileage and warranty work. So at any given time, we have new vehicles coming in that they have been purchased, and they have to be worked on to put in the various pieces of equipment that they use in their business operations and the trailers. They also sell truck parts out of the pit stop building. There'll be a showroom in there where they will be able to display one of their used tractors that have come in. We have the repair shops there. Cadence does the inspections in the area for all of the semi-tractors and trailers. They have to have an annual federal mandated licensing. They have to be checked, inspected, and certified. So that work, those vehicles are looked at this facility, and then of course any repairs that need to be done would be done by the mechanics in that facility at the pit stop. And then there's a parts, much as you'd see in an auto dealership, there'll be a parts area where they can get the necessary parts they might need for equipment that might be off-site. And they handle anything from a pickup truck, if you will, up to the large rigs. In addition to that, there's a proposal to have a restaurant in the building. Also probably some ancillary things like maybe a barber shop, beauty salon, open to the public, obviously, that anybody can stop by and wants to do or use those facilities. In addition to that, the warehouse building that would be at the north end of the property. It shows number 4 on the screen that's open right now. And that will be our parts warehouse. Parts come in from various suppliers around the country, and those parts are then cataloged and will go out either in bulk to certain trucking concerns around the country, or they'll come across to the other building and be sold in the pit stops. Some of the things that would come in on the trucks might be like the bumper guards on the big trucks, the deer guards that they put on the front. So things like that are then sold to some of the manufacturers and sales of like some of the big equipment, like the tractors that are like Peterbilt or Volvo or somebody like that. they would purchase some of that equipment from us that they would put on their trucks that are going out over the road. The use of the property is contingent upon getting Emerald Drive constructed. I think you're familiar with, I was in before the Plan Commission a few years back, now it's taken that long, but for the Speedway located at 53 in Emerald Drive, and we're close now to getting all of the IDOT approvals to be able to start that construction in the spring of 2022. So that construction will allow us to have our main access point out to Route 53. There is a plan then ultimately that Marcella will be extended south to Laraway. We don't anticipate that we would be using that segment. We see our primary access for the marshalling yard to be Emerald Drive. That will be a nice expanded intersection with traffic signals, et cetera. And we have plans then to take Rachel, which is now basically a right-in, right-out public street, reduce that to a driveway and continue to utilize that mostly for some of the retail traffic that will be coming in and utilizing either the pit stop or the warehouse building. Also in that warehouse building, I want to point out that there will be office space in there also. There are many Cadence companies that are part of the Cadence family. If you were able to take a look at the brochure, itemize some of those. And of course, one of the operations that will take place there is our Cadence Care, which is our charitable arm that provides foodstuffs for some of the food pantries in the area, disaster relief. Cadence sent some of their trucks at their cost. They're not part of the FEMA program, but they sent trucks with supplies down to Texas and some of those towns that were hit by hurricanes to get relief to those fellow citizens of the country. And so as a result, they have quite a reputation for assisting others, and they're very proud of that. So their facilities will also be located in that warehouse building and some of the office spaces additionally to that. So earlier this afternoon, the Joliet Zoning Board of Appeals recommended unanimously the special use permits that we would need in addition to the zoning for the property to the M1, the I1. And so we've got the existing 5 acres that are in the city, rezoning that from B3 to the I1. And then the balance of the property that we're annexing, we're asking for rezoning to the I1. And then, of course, as staff pointed out, we're working on the terms of the annexation agreement. So at this point, we would appreciate a recommendation from the Plan Commission to approve the rezoning matters that are before you this evening and allow an existing Joliet business to expand and stay in the community and continue to provide for basically a renewal of that neighborhood out there by taking a lot of those buildings down, putting up brand new structures, increasing the assessed valuation for real estate taxes, more retail taxes, and more high-paying jobs. We also provide training facilities in our building. That'll probably be, again, in some of the office space up there in the warehouse buildings where we teach young people that would like to get involved in the industry, what it's about, training sessions there. And so we spread ourselves around as far as trying to perpetuate the industry. And with this expansion, we think that we'll be able to continue to keep up with some of the nation's needs, if you will, in our chain of moving product around the country. So we're a point-to-point distributor, as I said, and so our trucks go out to various parts of the country and deliver and then pick up there and maybe bring some back to the Chicago area or interim stops. All that is worked out, and that's what they do here. We don't do freight back and forth, cross-dock kind of operations. This is point-to-point around different parts of the country, and that's what Cadence Logistics is about. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the commission?
Yeah, with these training facilities, are they in any conjunction with any of the local schools?
Yes.
Which ones?
Lewis University. Dr. Livingston.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Anybody have any questions or comments from the audience? please step up.
Hi, Hunter with the edits, 19544 West Sharp Road. I was just
Excuse
wondering,
me.
when you bring up,
Gotta swear you in. Gotta swear you in now.
oh,
Okay. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
always,
Thank you.
but what I want to know was, are they gonna get the traffic lights up that have been promised for all these years before they start construction? Or are they gonna, keep putting it off and putting it off? And then they build a cadence across on the west side, and you got trucks pulling out all the time out there. Without the traffic lights, everybody's in danger. I'm just hoping that you would take that into consideration first before you decide we're gonna get the trucks in.
So it's my understanding that Emerald Drive intersection improvements will begin spring of 2022 with the signal, with the traffic signal.
Thank you.
Okay. Come on.
Good evening, my name is Donna Rosendale. I live at 24711 South Sycamore in Elwood, Jackson Township.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
I just have a couple of things. I had asked, I understand about the marshalling now. That was one of my questions, is what exactly is marshalling, because I didn't understand what that was. But I was wondering if there was any discussion of building a bridge over 53 for the cadence trucks to transfer from one side to the other, as opposed to standing in line for a light. And I was also wondering if there was any discussion about turn lanes and extending the road there with sufficient turn lanes, not just like for one truck, but for a couple trucks from both directions to get in and out of that cadence facility. So it's not blocking the north and south traffic on 53, because there's currently not enough space. There's no right turn lane at the Laraway light, southbound on 53 or northbound on 53. So it would be nice to have that space for the trucks to get in and out of those facilities, because it blocks, and we sit with them waiting to get to where we need to go to when we're passing through. And also, I saw that corner, lower right corner on the map there had also been designated for possibly a quick trip truck stop and car guest pump. Has that been tabled? Has there been a decision on that? Is there any way that we can find out about that?
So that went to city council this week, Tuesday, and they denied that request for that
Is it tabled
travel center.
altogether?
It's
or-
denied, that was denied by the city council.
Okay, all right. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay.
It's also important to note, from your question, Donna, that with regard to widening the roadway and creating more turn lanes, that entire section of roadway from Emerald south to Laraway, like Mr. Torrey mentioned, that's all part of the spring 2022 reconstruction that has been funded and is ready to go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments from the audience? Okay. Which one are we going to,
Wait, I think we do have one more.
Daniel McCarron, Jackson Township.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think I should bring it to your attention that, we've got too many trucks in the area. This whole idea of the North Point and the loop and all that stuff, won't be addressed when you're putting all this in. I'm not up to speed of what you're doing with Emerald and 53 and Laraway, but I can tell you right now, none of it was planned right to begin with. You've got, at this time of the year, in about another week or two, you're gonna have Joliet police out there on 53, blocking the lane on 53, just so that Amazon can get more workers in and out of there. There's no plan in Joliet. There's no common sense. And with all the stuff about talking about doing your North Point deal, and you're looking at this, you're taking residential, turning it into the truck terminals. He's talking 300 trucks parked there. We just heard 15 minutes of talk from him about the retail, and they're selling bumper guards and all this stuff. That's not the meat and potatoes of this project. You haven't heard any of the meat and potatoes of the project. You got a lot of fluff here. I think this plan commission, Joliet, got to slow their roll down. you'll hear more from me tonight about with regards to what we're doing at 53 and the area roads. It's pathetic. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay,
So if you want to take them in order,
All right.
one at a time, for your approvals or recommendations, I'm sorry.
so we need a motion for 8-11-21 for the annexation. So motion,
So moved.
Second.
call the roll, please.
Mr. Perez,
Aye.
Ms. Rohr,
Aye.
Mr. Roosevelt,
Aye.
Mr. Wonderlich,
Aye.
Mr. Cox,
Aye.
Mr. Crompton,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Kellogg.
Aye. Also need a motion for D.5 and .21,
So moved.
Second.
call the roll, please.
Ms. Rohr,
Aye.
Mr. Roosevelt,
Aye.
Mr. Wonderlich,
Aye.
Mr. Cox,
Aye.
Mr. Crompton,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Perez,
Aye.
Mr. Kellogg.
Aye. And a motion to table P-9-21,
So moved. Second.
call the roll, please.
Ms. Rohr,
Aye.
Mr. Roosevelt,
Aye.
Mr. Wonderlich,
Aye.
Mr. Cox,
Aye.
Mr. Crompton,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Perez,
Aye.
Mr. Kellogg.
Aye.
Thank you. So, people know that the annexation and the zoning reclassification will go to city council at their 12/20/21 meetings. The preliminary plat will come back to the plan commission at the 12/16 meeting date. Next order of business is A1321, annexation and development agreement for approximately 2,179.296 acres with Eastgate Logistics Park Chicago LLC for Compass Business Park. Z921, zoning reclassification of approximately 2,179.296 acres to I1 light industrial zoning. A1521, annexation agreement for 117.36 acres with Wackle Limited Partnership. And Z1021, zoning reclassification of 117.36 acres to I1 light industrial zoning. Under general information, the applicants are Eastgate Logistics Park Chicago LLC for the 2,179.296 acres and Wackle Limited Partnership for 117 acres. Status of the applicants, their developer and owners, agent of the owner, contract purchaser or agent of the contract purchaser. Under property owners, EGLPC Light 170 LLC, New Horizons Farm LLC, VAB Farms LLC, EGLPC Brown Property LLC, EGLPC Lori Steffes 40 LLC, Robert E. Steffes Family Partnership LP, Gene Williams Living Trust, Bernard F. Regal Jr., Donald Walden Jr., Carol M. Walden Irrevocable Trust dated October 25th, 2019, EGLPC Matthias 68 LLC, LGLPC Rowell 30 LLC, EGLPC Voss 80 LLC, New Wave Farms LLC, Rafael and Maria Salinas, Steffes Ranch LLC. Under requested action, approval of zoning reclassifications as set forth in proposed annexation and development agreements. Purpose is to allow a future industrial park. Under existing zoning, 952 acres is R1B single-family residential, R4 multifamily residential, B3 general business, and I1 light industrial. 1,334 acres is A1 unincorporated Will County agriculture. Proposed zoning is I1 light industrial. The location is generally south of Millsdale Road, east of the Union Pacific Railroad line, west of Ridge Road, and a half-mile north of Hoff Road. Size is approximately 2,296 acres in total. The existing land use is primarily agriculture. Under general surrounding land use and zoning, to the north is residential and undeveloped R1B, R3, I1, and A1 in unincorporated Will County. South is agricultural, A1 unincorporated Will County. To the east is residential and agriculture, R4 and A1 unincorporated Will County. To the west is industrial and agricultural, IT and A1 unincorporated Will County. Under site history, development agreement and the reclassification of 103 acres located on the south side of Breen Road, one half mile east of Rowell Avenue, was approved from R1B, single-family residential, and R4 multifamily residential zoning district to I1 light industrial zoning district by the mayor and city council at their meeting in November 2019. Because the developer did not acquire the property within 180 days of ordinance passage, the development agreement became void. The property remained residential. A pre-annexation agreement was approved by the mayor and city council in April 2020 for 1,260 acres generally located 1/2 mile south of Breen Road and east of Chicago Road. Subsequent judicial direction required reproduction of the process. Approval of zoning reclassifications as set forth in an annexation and development agreement was approved by the mayor and city council in December 2020 for 1,260 acres generally located 1/2 mile south of Breen Road and east of Chicago Road. Special use permit to allow development of a freight terminal on no more than 40 acres generally located west of Rowell Road, south of Brown Road, was approved by the mayor and city council in December 2020. A variation on trailer and wheeled container parking not to exceed one parking space per 1,500 square feet of building floor area was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals at their special meeting December 2020. Under special information, the developer is the owner, agent of the owner, contract purchaser, or agent of the contract purchaser of approximately 1,227 acres, which lie within the municipal planning boundary of Joliet, but not within the corporate limits of Joliet or any other municipality, approximately 952 acres, which lie within the corporate limits of Joliet. Wackel Limited Partnership is the owner of approximately 117 acres of property located east of Route 53 and south of Breen Road. Approximately 1,124 acres of the property that are within the city limits are currently subject to existing recorded annexation agreements. By means of the proposed annexation and development agreements, the developer and the city intend to A, amend and restate those existing annexation agreements, B, set forth the terms and conditions by which portions of the subject site will be annexed to the city, and C, set forth the terms and conditions under which the subject site will be developed in the city. The approval of the annexation and development agreements will A, ensure all the property is zoned I-1 Light Industrial District, including specifically granting a map amendment for that portion of the property currently within the municipal boundaries of the city from the B3, R1B, and R4 zoning classifications to the I-1 zoning classification. B, adopt an ordinance annexing that portion of the property contiguous to the city limits. And C, adopt an ordinance granting a map amendment from the A1 county zoning classification to the I1 zoning classification for that same contiguous portions of property. The proposed draft annexation and development agreements have been submitted by the petitioners and have been reviewed by the city administration. Finalized agreements will be attached to the future resolution to the city council. Some details of the proposed agreement include the following. Under roads, streets, and right-of-way improvements, the developer agrees to honor any weight restrictions while they may exist. All public and private roads shall be constructed to full width. Any roadways crossing Manhattan Creek or Jackson Creek shall be required to have the drainage structure designed to pass the 100-year storm event without overtopping the roadway. For Campus Parkway, the developer shall construct Campus Parkway from the vicinity of the proposed bridge over the Union Pacific right-of-way to the location of a proposed bridge over Illinois Route 53, in the vicinity of Breen Road. Upon approval of the Route 53 bridge, the developer shall extend Campus Parkway to serve the property east of Illinois Route 53. Building permits shall not be approved by the city for buildings located east of Illinois Route 53 until the developer has posted a bond or other financial instrument with the city sufficient to ensure the construction of the Route 53 bridge. Other road construction and improvements. The developer shall be responsible for the improvement of any existing road located on or immediately adjacent to their property to the full extent of its frontage along any site on their property which is the subject of a building permit application by the developer. The designs and specifications of all roads will be determined by the traffic impact study prepared and submitted by the developer and reviewed and approved by the city. Additional on-site roads will be constructed by the developer to provide safe and appropriate access to facilities developed on the property. The design and specifications of such roads will be determined by the traffic impact study. Other off-site road improvements along with their associated timing will be determined by the traffic impact study. The closed loop truck network, the property shall be developed with a roadway network including all necessary bridges designed to provide safe but restricted access for tractor trailers to the property in a closed loop truck network. The closed loop truck network, or CLTN, as it is also described, without allowing access to the property for tractor trailers from Illinois Route 53, Manhattan Road, or other municipal or township road. The developer shall install, maintain, and own all necessary truck barriers, truck turnarounds, cul-de-sacs, and similar improvements to prevent tractor-trailer access or egress to or from the property other than by way of the CLTN. The following bridges shall be constructed by the developer as necessary to preserve the integrity of the CLTN. 1, the railroad bridge constructed over the Union Pacific Railroad south of Millsdale Road, including all necessary improvements and modifications to provide safe and restricted access for tractor-trailer traffic to and from the property. 2, the Route 53 bridge constructed over Illinois Route 53 in the vicinity of Breen Road, including all necessary improvements and modifications to provide safe and restricted access for tractor-trailer traffic to and from property without allowing any use of Illinois Route 53 by tractor trailers. 3, at such time that the development of the property requires tractor trailer traffic to cross Manhattan Road, the developer shall construct a bridge over Manhattan Road, including all necessary improvements and modifications to provide safe and restricted access for tractor trailer traffic to and from the property without allowing any use of Manhattan Road by tractor trailers. 4, the developer shall have the right but not the obligation to connect to a bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad and Illinois Route 53 in the location of Walter Strawn Drive and Ira Morgan Street, including all necessary improvements and modifications to provide safe and restricted access for tractor-trailer traffic to and from the property without allowing any use of Illinois Route 53 by such tractor-trailers. A parcel site exhibit is attached as general depiction of the potential development area of the property. The approval of the parcel site exhibit is not intended to and does not constitute a variance, waiver, or modification of any zoning, subdivision, water or sanitary sewer, land use, or construction requirement of the city. Similarly, the parcel site exhibit does not impair or restrict the property or development rights of the owner. 1, development of the site as a multi-phase light industrial business park. 2, landscaping. The owner shall comply with the landscape requirements established by the city at the time the property is developed, such requirements being currently set forth in section 4715E of the zoning ordinance. 3, residential buffer and use conditions, a 60-foot wide berm adjacent to existing residential properties to include landscape material and fencing as is required by the city's landscape ordinance. Objectionable use restriction to be enforced adjacent to residential uses. 4, development as per city subdivision regulations. The petitioner agrees that development of the property depicted in the attached draft conceptual site plan shall be accomplished as per city subdivision regulations. 5, exterior lighting. Exterior lighting is to be mounted parallel to the ground and perpendicular to the wall or poles and not tipped up or mounted higher than 30 to 35 feet. Exterior fixtures shall be cut off luminaires as recommended by dark sky or green globe guidelines. Minimum glare while reducing light trespass and sky glow is the desired effect. Public utilities donation. Developers shall dedicate a total of 20 acres of land to the city divisible into separate parcels at mutually agreeable locations for future water treatment plant and well, water storage tank, wastewater treatment plant, and lift stations. No future use restrictions shall be placed on the dedicated parcels. 7, public safety donation. The developer shall dedicate a total of 15 acres land donation and funding for construction of a combined training facility for the Joliet Fire and Police Departments and the possible relocation of a fire station. 8, under miscellaneous, additional conditions of interest within the agreement will include building design standards, learning and career center, traffic impact study, exterior meet and eat areas, exterior stairs, on-site pavement, public accessible trail along Manhattan Creek, paths and sidewalks, electric vehicle charging stations, equipment screening, fencing, naturalized storm detention facilities, signage, project labor agreement and affirmative action and local label clause, support of enterprise zone and foreign trade zone inclusion, community enhancement contributions, nature corridors, greenways, and a community benefit committee. All public improvements and assurances will be required as part of any future development. Sewer and water connection fees, development impact fees, and fire and library district disconnection fees will be required. As part of the proposed agreement, the developer would pay an initial community enhancement contribution fee of $5 million and an additional 33 cents per square feet of building constructed at the time of building permit. The total community enhancement contribution, including the initial community enhancement contribution, shall not exceed $6,620,000. City shall have sole discretion as to the use of these funds as long as the purpose is restricted to projects deemed to have a community benefit to Joliet. The developer has submitted a copy of the Will County Friendly Freight Mobility Study and believe they have met the requirements of the survey. Petitioner has conducted neighborhood meetings for this proposal on November 8th and 10th at the Forest Preserve District of Will County, Sugar Creek Administration Center, and also at Knoll Park. And that concludes our staff report.
Thank you. May we have the petitioner on this?
Mr. Chairman,
They're seated over here, sir.
we're seated here if you'd like.
Oh,
We
sorry.
can get testimony from here, if
Okay.
that's okay.
I swear you, promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, give your name and address, please.
Mr. Chairman, so my name is Tom Osterberger. I'm one of the attorneys for the applicant at 111 North Ottawa Street. The swearing in was for all of the consultants and the applicant. Is that satisfactory?
Yes.
Okay. So we're here tonight, and I want to point out, Jim suggested that you open the hearing. We really have two hearings which are merged because we have two applications, one for the Eastgate applicant and one for the Wackle interest. The attorneys for the Wackle interest are here tonight, but the testimony provided tonight on behalf of North Point addresses the Wackle as well. So I just want to be clear because legally there are to be two hearings. We just happen to be having them at one time for efficiency's sake. So tonight, we have Tom George. Tom George and Patrick Robinson here for the applicant. We have Eric Fossman from Kimley Horn. He's one of our planners. We have Bill Bowen, who is a civil engineer with Jacob and Hefner. We have Tim Sjogren, who is a traffic consultant for Kimley Horn. And we have Mike Makovsky, who is an appraiser for Edward Batis. So we're looking for support. This is obviously exactly as Jim described. It is an expansion, but we're restating and reviewing exactly what we've obtained approval on before. And we're here to amend the annexation agreement previously approved, adding the property, restating and rezoning those parcels that are necessary. So I will pass the torch to Tom George to give his brief summary, and then we'll provide our testimony.
She does, yeah. We could bring up their center point, or North Point.
One of the points.
Yeah, sorry about that.
What's in the name? Okay, if you could move to the
next slide, that'd be great.
Clicker.
Go ahead. So this is really the beginning. Will County at the center of the U.S. supply chain. Everybody has heard probably more than they care about the supply chain in the last several months. It's something that we've lived with our entire careers. And Will County certainly plays a major role in that. Not the least of which is due to the two significant intermodals that are located here, making these two the largest inland port in the country. So we have the Burlington Northern Santa Fe in Elwood, and of course the Union Pacific in Joliet. So we'll run through this very quickly, but we have a tremendous amount of community input on this project. We've had an active partnership with all the local organizations and with the trades also. We've worked tirelessly with IDOT to develop traffic generation studies. It's probably the most vetted traffic program we've ever worked on. And we, of course, incorporated the results of the Will County Community-Friendly Freight Mobility Study. So we've held an unprecedented 10 neighborhood meetings at this point. And I think we're conservative at 30 hours of testimony and 7 meetings. It's probably been more than that. And then a lot of folks did travel to our most similar development in Kansas City, staff and elected officials to witness that. So we appreciate you doing that. And we want to make it clear, we will continue to listen and continue to partner with the community and try to continue to make this park better and better. So the big goal with Compass that is unique is to take trucks off of Route 53. That's been the mantra for 5 years now, that we want to create a park that does serve as a critical link in the chain of the U.S. supply chain, but at the same time does not add truck traffic to Route 53. Along the way, we'll create up to 1,600 annual construction jobs. 6,300 is the conservative estimate. It could be twice that number, but 6,300 permanent jobs, about $22 million in annual property taxes, and create a quality environment for the employees and for nature. We do and the park really will set a new standard for industrial park operations and community involvement. Again, we have a landmark labor agreement that not only provides for the construction of the buildings, but the maintenance of the buildings and the park to be done by union trades. Our community benefit committee you've already heard about. And to be clear, we are asking for no TIF funding or abatement for the park. And in the agreement, we have asked for no variations to the code for the city of Joliet, and have codified several improvements or increases in those requirements in the annexation agreement. The park will create more opportunity for sales tax generators and manufacturers. We do know that the manufacturers now, as you know from Lion, would like to be located near the intermodals. That's where their parts come in, and so I think there's going to be some great synergy there. We will restore direct access to the intermodals for the farming community. They lost that access when Walter Strom was closed. And set a new standard, as we said, for operations. The Community Benefit Committee is up and running, and we do have a mobile food pantry on December 10th right here in Joliet. At this point, I will turn it over to Bill Bone, who is the president of Jacob and Hefner Engineering.
Thank you, Tom. Once again, my name is William Bone, Jacob and Hefner Associates. We're the civil engineer and surveyor on the project. Thanks. Right slide. I'm going to hit on 4 brief points. First being water and wastewater, very important part of any development. The North Point Development Team, along with my team at Jacob and Hefner Associates, worked hand in hand with the city engineering staff, as well as the city's consultant, to do a comprehensive study for water and wastewater, not only for Compass Business Park, but throughout the region surrounding Compass Business Park. And that, again, covered both water supply system and wastewater collection and treatment system. A key piece of that plan and study are water storage tanks, which will increase the reliability and quality of the city's water supply system. It is important to note that industrial development is the lowest water use versus all other development types. That includes single-family residential, commercial use, multifamily residential, industrial development, time and time again has been proven to be the lowest water user of any development. Second point I'd like to discuss is stormwater. The development will be in conformance with all applicable regulations. That includes federal, state, county, and city stormwater management ordinances. The installation of stormwater detention ponds throughout the business park will significantly reduce peak runoff rates versus existing conditions. And what that means is no more flooding in these areas. The development, another important thing, because some of these are farm fields that are being developed, is we will do an agricultural drain tile study where we'll map out where all the existing agricultural drain tiles are throughout the property, and those will be incorporated into our design so as to not cause any issues upstream or downstream of those drain tiles. It's in the city's ordinance, and it's common engineering practice that we do that. Next point I'd like to touch on is sustainability. Jim Torrey mentioned in his staff report, and Tom has mentioned also prior, dark sky compliant lighting will be throughout the business park, electric car charging stations on every building site, 100% naturalized detention. What that means is we will, instead of planting turf grass around all the detention basins, we will plant native plant species, different communities that go up the side slopes and at the bottom of the detention facility. And what that does is it promotes infiltration into the soil beneath the detention basin, and also increases evaporation, naturally filters the stormwater before it leaves the detention basin, and also creates habitat. We have a landscape plan throughout the business park that will plant over 8,000 trees on the roads alone. There's also quite a bit of landscaping throughout all the detention basins and all the residential buffer areas. Increased green space versus similar developments is a key point. Again, increased landscaping. And then want to mention the green space or open space that the business park is proposing. If you look at the map up there, all of the green areas are open space that we are proposing, and open space will consist of residential buffer areas, floodplain compensatory storage areas, stormwater detention areas, and other conservation areas. A little hard to tell on the screen, but there are 4 key areas that I want to point out that are kind of in a lighter green. And these are what we're calling the conservation areas. There's about a 50-acre piece of property up between Millsdale and Route 53 that's on the west and south side of the existing residential development at the southwest corner of Millsdale, and Route 53 that will be a conservation area. There will be a little work that's going to be done in that area up front to provide floodplain compensatory storage. But once that's done, it'll be beautifully landscaped with native vegetation and will be a conservation area into perpetuity. There's 3 other locations throughout the business park that kind of have the same deal. Again, up front, a little bit of work to provide some floodplain compensatory storage. Some of the areas will have small parking lots and access for the public to use the conservation areas. Last but not least is environmental impacts for infrastructure. So as with any development of this kind, there's infrastructure that is going to be designed and constructed throughout, namely roads, utilities, things of that nature. It's important to note that there is a very robust multi-level, multi-tier permitting process that we must go through for all of this infrastructure. And at each level of that permitting process, the environmental impacts are looked at. There is a whole host of government entities that we have to get permits through. To name a few, City of Joliet obviously is one, Illinois EPA, Illinois Department of Natural Resources, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, the Illinois State Water Survey, FEMA, we'll have to go through FEMA where we cross or impact any floodplain, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and IDOT, of course. So a very comprehensive and robust design process will ensue, and we'll go through the permitting process with all of those entities so that they can look at the environmental impacts of what we're doing. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Tim Sjogren with Kimley Horn.
Thanks, Bill. My name is Tim Sjogren. I'm a transportation engineer with Kimley Horn. I've been doing projects in this area for well over a decade, working both with the private sector and many of the communities around here as you guys deal with pretty incredible growth that's taken place. The project that's being considered this afternoon, it really builds on the transportation work that we've done to date. Like Tom said, it provides for diverse access for cars so that employees and jobs can be created around the region. And then it very carefully controls and manages truck traffic, pointing that traffic to the two intermodals, to the new Hobart Road Bridge, and to I-55. And we're very familiar with this area. We've studied over 40 intersections in the last several years, and we're currently working with city staff, IDOT, and the county to identify the scope of a study that will be even broader. And this study, it will evaluate conditions that may exist both with one bridge and potentially two bridges over the UP Railroad, as well as 53. And the study is really a tool designed to identify the improvements that will be needed. And because of the diversity of access that we have, and our familiarity with the region's transportation network, we're really confident in our ability to identify and construct the improvements that would be needed. The traffic study is that tool. It's designed to identify those improvements so we can engineer them and so we can construct them and have them in place before the project traffic is there. And we're going to continue to monitor it. In pretty much an unprecedented thing, we've committed to reperforming the study every 3 years so that we can look at improvements that continue to need to be made that are appropriate for the region and the industry as they change. And the industry is changing. While the buildings are getting larger, how the space within them is being utilized is changing, and that has resulted in over a 65% reduction in truck traffic just in the last 10 years from these facilities. It's significant, and it may continue. As Tom said, the need to improve logistics efficiency continues, and it's becoming very apparent how important that is. And the trucks that we do have will be well managed. The truck loop that's been talked about, that's going to physically separate these trucks from other area roadways, and much of this roadway that will carry these trucks will be brand new. It will run on new alignment. It will use 3 bridges to convey the trucks over other area roadways and to point that traffic again toward the expressways, the intermodals, and the Hobart Road Bridge. Compared to facilities that would instead front 53, this will dramatically reduce truck traffic on that state route, which will be a benefit both to our park employees as well as the region at large. And so we look forward to continuing to work with staff as we have been for several years with the county, with the state, and the businesses and residents of this area to implement a transportation plan that really accommodates the needs and the growth associated with both this project and the region at large. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Eric to talk about planning.
Thank you, Tim. My name is Eric Bosman. I'm a certified planner with Kimley Horn. I want to take a few minutes this evening to talk a little bit from a planning perspective about the consistency and compatibility of this proposal with the city's comprehensive plan, its zoning pattern and policies, as well as existing uses in the area. So the map that's on the screen is Joliet zoning map, which clearly shows a significant cluster of industrial zoned property south of I-80. The area south of Laraway Road includes the Speedway, the Raceway, and except for a very limited number of residential parcels, it's majority zoned I-1, which is industrial, shown in the light blue, and intermodal terminal, which is shown in the teal and darker royal blue colors on the west side of Route 53 and the railroad tracks. The zoning map shows industrial zoned property along both sides of South Chicago Street, Route 53, and the city's adopted zoning map and policy shows a clear pattern and expectation for continued growing cluster of industrial property and uses in this area. Now, the city's previously adopted plans, most notably the Southside Comprehensive Plan, which was adopted in 2007 and is the most recently adopted plan for the area, recognizes the need in this area and the ability to both protect existing residential neighborhoods and to provide a large contiguous area for industrial growth that will strengthen the overall tax base of the city and provide for employment, shopping, recreational opportunities within the area. The growth patterns that are specifically forecasted and highlighted in the Southside Comprehensive Plan call for non-traditional commercial and recreational land uses, concentrations of industrial uses with, quote, a high compatibility for expanding such uses due to the nearby state and federal highways, existing rail lines, the Des Plaines River, and the new intermodal facility, unquote. And sporadic, well-contained residential growth within residential subdivisions in South Joliet. The plan did contemplate additional residential development along the city's southern border, but that has not come to fruition over the 14 years since the plan was adopted. What has been built in the area is no new residential subdivisions, but industrial development along both sides of Route 53. Now, I want to take a minute to talk specifically about the context of parcels, the group of parcels that are between South Chicago Street and the railroad tracks in the northeasternmost portion of the proposed development, which are highlighted in the properties that are hatched on the map that are on the screen. There are parcels within the city of Joliet that this application would rezone from R1B, which is small lot single family with a minimum lot size of 9,100 square feet, and R4, which is multifamily development, to I-1 between this area of South Chicago Street and the railroad tracks. Now, while the set of parcels is zoned R1B and R4, the use of the property is and has been agriculture. The city's zoning and planning documents support agriculture as a traditional use, but the city's planning documents focus upon the need to grow the city's tax base via industrial business development and residential subdivisions in order to meet the needs of the growing Joliet and surrounding region. So from a planning perspective, the question is not whether this land is suitable for agriculture. Is the long-term use of this property best for significant residential development in the form of small single-family lots and multifamily, or the ability to create the closed truck loop network, which will separate truck and local vehicular traffic in the area, something the community has stated for many years. So the integration of the proposed truck loop is an essential element of this project that will minimize traffic conflicts and impacts. And while a residential cluster might have been envisioned 14 years ago to be larger, that hasn't occurred from the market standpoint and doesn't appear likely in the current market as well. So the potential concern that may remain from a planning standpoint is where the proposed development is adjacent to existing residential areas. And in this area, the owner is committed to establishing a 60-foot landscape fenced buffer compared to the 15-foot buffer that is required in the city's current landscape code, and maintaining environmental conditions that will mitigate both development and operational impacts. So again, from a planning perspective, the proposal before you is a coordinated, well-planned development that will enhance the area's economy, is compatible with the current zoning, the city's plans and policies, and provides necessary buffers to existing residential. The rezoning is consistent with the city's adopted comprehensive plan and policy documents, and most importantly, implements a strategy to address traffic and community safety that will enhance the health, well-being, and safety of the area through the closed truck loop. This is an opportunity to increase the area's tax base, provide new employment opportunities, and most importantly, have a singular master plan and developer that can coordinate the area's growth and maintenance in a way that future piecemeal haphazard development will not, and often turns into greater conflicts, impacts, and long-term costs to the community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike Makowski. I'm a state licensed appraiser. I hold the MAI designation. I currently work with, on this project with Ed Bates and Associates, which is headquartered right here in downtown Joliet. He's been in business for over 50 years. We have extensive experience with market studies, impact studies. We've done them all over the state in every county, and I've been there for most of them. In the subject case, we've been retained to study the market behavior in regards to residential property that's adjacent to industrially zoned property. This is the continuation of 3 years of research and studies. South Joliet market area is not extraordinary or unique. Industrial developments similar to many other areas in the county, as well as the surrounding market areas outside Will County, are similar. Our market study involves analysis of nearly 10,000 transactions. Including trends, our analysis includes trends of data, observing the market and submarket patterns. Our studies follow rules and methodologies established by professional valuation standards. Based on facts, data, market evidence, and avoiding subjective analysis and speculation, overall, we've seen no discernible pattern of negative impacts when the property is zoned for industrial use near residential developments. This particular slide shows Will County and shows other industrial developments all throughout the county. This next slide shows in the Romeoville Bolingbrook area how this particular industrial subdivision is, what's key to note is that it's surrounded by residential development. You'll note here, these are representative developments and their start dates. In this next slide, you'll notice, and in the following slides, you'll notice this is Heartland Corporate Center in Shorewood, and the right shows what it looks like in 2006, and the left shows what it looks like in 2017, and also note is how there are residential subdivisions abutting up to it. This is the Carlor Corporate Center in Bolingbrook, and it's similar. You'll notice 2002 at the start, and in 2017, you'll notice there is residential development abutting. The goal of our study was, of course, to find residential that abutted industrial. Here's similar in Wyndham Lakes in Romeoville. This is the International Center West in Romeoville. Here's Money Road in Money. Taylor Road in Romeoville, also notice the abutting residential. Here's Cherry Hill and New Lenox and Joliet. Laraway Crossings in Joliet, also notice the abutting residential. Ridgeport in Wilmington. Center Point in Elwood. Center Point in Joliet. And And this is interesting because this is the market study area, one of them, in International Center West. You notice we identified Misty Ridge subdivision, Haley Meadows subdivision, Hampton Park subdivision. And all of those are residential subdivisions in proximity to industrial zoned land. In this particular road in market study area in Moni, we were looking at what are the effects if you're a mile away? What are the effects a mile if you're 2 miles away? What are the effects if you're 3 miles away? This particular slide shows the market study area in Heartland Center and Shorewood. One of the things, and you'll notice the residential and close proximity to the industrial. And one of the things that's kind of interesting about this is there might be a comment of, we look at all different price ranges in our study. In this is a statistical outlier, but this particular property sold for $775,000, and it's located right next to an industrial subdivision. In this final slide, or second to final, we're taking a look at 2020 average sale price, 2021 average sale price, and the change. You'll notice the top is Will County, City of Joliet, Village of Shanahan. All of these are the communities that had industrial development in them. You'll notice at the very bottom is the Village of Elwood, and the Village of Elwood is kind of statistically important because that's where Centerpoint is close to. And you'll note that from 2020 to 2021, the average sale price actually went up 19%, which outperformed the county, the City of Joliet, and all of the other communities. In the final slide, I'm basically summarizing what was on in a tabular form, but this is a bar graph, so it just kind of shows basically what I said before. Joliet, Shanahan, Shorewood on the bottom, notice all the way across, and there's Elwood, which interestingly enough went up 19% from 2020 to 2021. What's interesting about that is that even though it has significant industrial development, there appears to be no discernible pattern that the values are impacted negatively. Thank you very much. That's the end of my section.
That's all we have, Mr. Chairman. We're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions from the commission? Okay.
Okay, so for the public participation section of this public hearing, we did have a sign-in sheet. So we'll take people in the order they're signed in. Remember the rules we discussed earlier. And if you didn't sign up, but you still want to, there's a sheet out in the hallway with Derek. And Karen, go ahead, who's first?
Stacy Myers.
If I swear you in, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, state your name and address, please.
My name is Stacy Myers, and I'm with Open Lands. We are a conservation organization that works within Joliet and throughout the metropolitan region. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to stand before you with important concerns, legal matters, and also planning at the center of what we do. Open Lands urges the Plan Commission to vote no on the proposed annexation and development agreements and associated annexation and zoning before you on North Point. Open Lands respectfully also request a continuance of at least 30 days to meaningfully participate and respond to information, as we just heard, such as the appraiser this evening that was not available to us before coming before you tonight. I think it's today. This is especially important in the service of due process and your sound process. And so I am asking for all of those with interest in the project area, sorry, in order to uphold the integrity of this. Would you be willing to grant us 30 days to be able to respond? Is there a grant of that? Or
Okay, she's
denial?
asking if there's a motion. Is there a motion to table this for 30 days?
We are requesting that, yes.
Is there a motion to table? Not at this time.
Please continue, Stacy.
So I consider that denial, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Open Lands has a deep connection and commitment to collaborating with all interests, from the community residents and public officials, to intermodal companies and labor unions, to unite behind strategies for all industries, from freight to agriculture, to thrive and complement globally significant natural treasures, community health, quality of life, and the history and sense of place within and surrounding Joliet. Open Lands and our supporters use, enjoy, help steward, and connect people to Medewan and frequent it along with the 27 connected federal and state protected natural areas in the prairie parklands. You have a wealth of natural treasures at your doorstep. We have helped to acquire and restore iconic landscapes within Medewan and have supported over $1 billion of roads and other infrastructure improvements at the federal level to ensure people and goods can travel without degrading this renowned place and for there to be balance. Open Lands also advocates to support agricultural areas as a vital natural resource. I will be needing over 4 minutes, as I have expressed.
You'll be given a reasonable amount of time. Please continue.
I have a reasonable amount to say. Thank you very much for that.
Reasonable.
North Point is inconsistent with surrounding land uses and is a serious threat to people's health and welfare in Joliet and neighboring Will County communities. Light, noise, pollution, vibration from this giant intermodal complex, of which the first 2,296 acres is before you, would clash with nearby rural and residential uses, would harm residents and businesses within a large radius of the project. North Point would permanently cost taxpayers millions to repair and maintain infrastructure, increasing demand on emergency and community services, which will pose a financial burden that dwarfs prospective gains. We have seen this before. This is not new. North Point would also degrade experiences to visitors and values of globally rare habitat within Medewan, as well as the peaceful internment of veterans at Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery, second largest in the nation, at our doorstep again. All of this is contrary to local and regional planning, from the South Joliet Comprehensive Land Use Plan and the Joliet 29 Water Plan, from your own words, to the 2021 Moving Will County Tdl Nature and Truck Routing Studies and principles of complementary uses in the Will County Community-Friendly Freight and Mobility Plan. We urge the Plan Commission to advise against further consideration for the following reasons. First, we still have the issue of cornering. That has not been resolved. You have 2 PIN numbers that still only touch at the corners. If you look at Exhibit B of the annexation agreement before you, in the amended and restated version, that needs to be revised because there's a small parcel that would provide contiguity that was not included in the notice of this proceeding today. That is a problem. That parcel must be struck from the map for the project area as described to be accurate. We know that point-to-point annexation is prohibited under Illinois annexation law. I've detailed that in what I have previously provided you and incorporate into the record as my testimony. There is no longer a mention in the current annexation agreement of the fact that the city may petition to annex the small 1.5 acre FAA parcel. That is gone now. A speculative future annexation does not change the fact that the actual presently proposed annexation embodied in the agreement before you unlawfully lacks necessary and meaningful contiguity. That is a legal fact. The city of Joliet can only rezone what it can annex. The annexation agreement cannot be passed in its current form or its previous one. And all of the property cannot be zoned I-1 industrial because it remains beyond the legal jurisdiction of the city. North Point Intermodal is also inconsistent with I-1 light industrial zoning. I'm not going to go through everything that I said before with respect to time. However, it stands that this is the wrong zoning. North Point is clearly not light industrial, but a large logistic park that fits squarely into the description of one of the categories under IT classifications for industrial zoning at that level. At the very least, it should be rezoned as a heavier use, be afforded to honor this body greater process and planning with more robust and transparent information that is rightfully expected of an industrial operation of this magnitude. There are impacts here to community health, general welfare, one of your criteria, groundwater supply, drainage, flooding, agricultural industry, new burdens on strained transportation systems, and other consequences of regional scale. Under the Joliet zoning ordinance, I-1 light industrial is supposed to be clean and quiet. Zoning this as an I-1 is a massive fraud on the public and contrary to how this plan commission has decided in the past, in which the petitioner can evade 36 pages of criteria and considerations that is due before you of an industrial operation with this severity of impact. We now have over 2,000 acres. I beseech you to look at IT zoning. Eastgate has failed to provide you with a comprehensive master planning approach that you would see for this kind of development to minimize external impacts of infrastructure. They want you to stamp this and for that to be considered later. That's not minimization, that's mitigation. Avoidance, minimization, mitigation. Your rules. They're not following them. This sets a horrible precedent and can have severe damage. Similar uses in Joliet, such as Centerpoint, UP North, are IT. This body is no stranger to zoning IT for facilities like this. Proponents have also failed to provide information on anticipated noise levels from trucks traveling, idling, loading, unloading, as well as containers moved to either store or were coupled to trailers throughout the 2296 acre facility, potentially at all hours. If the existing agreements still stand, in which it is unclear, and I will reach that when I get to the lack of notice and the flawed notice, unfortunately still present in what has been done for this proceeding. Trucks latching to a trailer, I don't know how many of you have actually stood and heard that sound, is at approximately 126 decibels, dBA. CDC says noise above 120 decibels can cause immediate harm to your ears. For perspective, quiet rural nighttime noise can measure around 25 to 30 decibels. I used to work on noise cases for the Illinois Pollution Control Board. What really disturbs me is what you saw in the appraisal, in the proposal, that you have residential uses abutting industry does not negate potential conflict. I used to work on cases because of conflicts from instances where zoning was not done in accordance and in the level of the impacts to those communities. You see it. Just because it happens doesn't make it right. And this is the place in which it needs to be rectified, not later, when you're just trying to figure out how best you can sort of make do with the situation. The choice of I-1 light industrial zoning is also contrary to what the City Council has previously done for much smaller developments. I mentioned in 2015, the Joliet Pre-Council meeting, the denial of the request by Sun City for I-1 zoning for much, much less than is before you now. That was around 500 and, I'm trying to think, there's 32 trucks and 12 parking spaces. It was inconsistent. So impacts by the North Point Intermodal Facility would likely be much more egregious and ill-suited. The issue here is that there are real-life impacts. If you look at UC Berkeley Health Impact Group, community noise is associated with everything from increased annoyance and stress, risk of heart attacks, effects on children's mental health, reading comprehension and school performance, difficulty in falling asleep, leading to fatigue, impaired endocrine and immune system function, deterioration of performance, reduced attention and motivation, lowered mental concentration, intellectual capacity, recall, recognition, cognitive development in children, and of all, noise disproportionately impacts the health of lower income and minority populations. That's important to consider under general welfare for you tonight. This is an example of why siting North Point within 300 feet of property zoned residential and A2 does not conform to your requirements. There is no evidence provided by North Point that 60 feet and the low berms that they have is adequate when you've got deafening noise coming out of these facilities. The North Point operation and induced traffic is also going to undermine the integrity of Medewan, throwing light, noise, pollution, vibration into this federally protected natural area. North Point would be built close to the northern border of Medewan. That is also fact. I've included lots of studies as evidence, of which there is nothing contrary as evidence on record to refute it. The Annexation Development Agreement reaffirms the commitment to special use as and variations permits that are prohibited under prescribed I-1 light industrial zoning. I would like to incorporate by reference the comments that I made in the previous hearing before you on that point in order to not have to go through it all right now. There is no indication of an intent to repeal or otherwise nullify previous resolutions or ordinances that were approved with the purpose of granting special uses and variations. There is nothing on notice or in the packet as to that effect. Eastgate, in its proffered agreement, also failed to petitions for special use permits that are required before Joliet zoning ordinance for permanent development activity in Cedar Creek, Sugar Creek, Jackson Creek, and Jackson Bragg protection areas. Those are required. There is never even a petition before you. You have decided to protect those resources. They are not protected by this proposal. There is no evidence as to that before you. Now it appears the project with Sugar Creek is going to make the situation worse than it was before. Finally, because I-1 zoning precludes the grant of any special use permits, permitting under section 4715G7 appears to be simply unavailable because of the inconsistent zoning, wrong zoning. Eastgate has failed to provide a study to the Plan Commission, both in and around Joliet, as to its water withdrawal, whether or not they're updated on traffic, drainage, wells. What is this going to do to people's neighbors? They provided you nothing to make the determination on general welfare. You are due that information. They have not provided it to you or to us. The only thing that we were provided was the annexation agreement with less than 48 hours to be able to evaluate it. That was a problem. North Point would intensify traffic and result in exorbitant infrastructure costs not covered by the annexation agreement, especially to surrounding communities and jurisdictions. I believe some of them have actually submitted comments that you will hear, so I will not be redundant. We also know how North Point would degrade public lands, globally rare and natural areas, and beautiful creeks. The amount of added impervious surface alone will generate an immense amount of polluted runoff. And here's the thing about stormwater detention and naturalized systems. I work on the technical advisory committee of MWRD, and over the span of 10 years, because we do restoration ecology, helped contribute to the creation and the updates, and we still do, to that ordinance. When you look at native plantings are finicky things. They don't like salt. They don't like metals. They don't like the things that roll off trucks. So if you're going to be passing something contingent upon systems that are known not to be able to grow in the kind of polluted environments on the bottom of these things that are collecting fats, oils, grease, phosphorus, salt, metals, they don't hold. In addition to that, stuff called solubles, all that salt, goes down into your groundwater. Not helping. So even without knowing where all of these are going to be, we've had nothing on that. The very design in which they provided you is flawed. It's a problem. That's why you need their information as specified in an IT zoning application. I've left this to last. I probably should have brought this to you guys first. North Point is contrary to local and regional land use plans in the area, to the Plan Commission. North Point contradicts recommendations and findings, and from local to regional plans. Moving Will County in their Tdl Nature Map, of which Joliet is a stakeholder, as are we, as are many within the southwest Will County area. If you look at North Point, you won't find it on the map. I included a map for you. They did, however, include 10,000 acres as to where principals uphold freight could be. But because this is situated in a way that it doesn't match their principles and their strategies, they omitted it. That should tell you something. That should mean something as a participant in that process. And it's clear why. And you can see, I had brought this for you guys. This is the page of the map for the Tdl Nature Map. You see the green? That's Jackson Creek. You see where North Point would go? Right over part of what you have. The reason why this is in this southwest Will County plan is because of what Joliet, what this body did to protect that space with your zoning ordinance. That's why everybody rallied behind this. North Point is fully in conflict with what you have contributed to this plan. Last, the strategy in moving Will County has one criteria and 4 exceptions. You hit any one of those exceptions, there should be no development in that area. Maybe someplace, but not there. It hits 3 out of 4 of the exceptions. I would really, really request that you look at that. This also defies go to 2040 and on to 2050, regional, national freight principles. This is at a time that we are vying for national dollars on unprecedented scale. And to be competitive, it needs to meet these criteria to be a best practice. Think of what else you could be getting right now with those infrastructure dollars. This hurts you. Also, in your plan, it is incorrect to say that this development was thought to have evolved from what happened since 2007. You all put your planning on hold. It is presumptuous to assume what you all would have determined would have been appropriate as a use in this area. As it stands, it is residential. There are people who live there that are reliant upon your decisions as to what was appropriate in this area. And they are now having to contend with trying to wrap around that in a way that is not appropriate. Will County Community Friendly Freight Mobility Plan warned that continued growth without planning and new transportation investments will threaten Will County's economic competitiveness and quality of life. They were right. We request that you listen. Last, notice. Notice of this proceeding was conflicting and deficient. This is serious. Rules for the hearing before the Plan Commission and City Council were unclear, despite the importance of zoning proceedings that you provide to process and allow people to defend their rights. The notice didn't state the amount of time people would be allowed to speak. There were no clear rules. The only thing specific was 4 minutes. I didn't know how much time I would have until I walked in tonight. That's a problem for somebody who's trying to prepare meaningfully to provide you information which is fundamental to your decision. The only time limits indicated 4 minutes. That rule was previously enforced in this body in the first 103 acres that was annexed for this project. There was reason to believe we would be held to 4 minutes tonight. The notice and annexation agreement substantially differed in scope and how the properties were described. Between the notice and the annexation agreement, they're very different. And an example, section Z921 of the notice before the Joliet Plan Commission placed us on notice of the zoning reclassification, the rezoning of 2,179 acres. That means all of it, again, nuke and pave. And yet we're hearing tonight, no, that's not what you're doing at all. So in preparation, with the little time that we had, we're preparing for the wrong thing because of deficient notice. That's a problem. Similarly, the petitions appear to indicate that current zoning in the property within the previous footprint is zoned A1 for agricultural. That reinforces the belief that this is nuke and pave, that this is new rezoning and annexation, when in fact it is not. That matters, especially when your livelihoods, health, families, home are affected by this project. It also matters for those of us that care about the area and what you have as far as the wealth of resources right here in Joliet. Open lands, along with other people in the project area, were given two conflicting objectives with no time to determine which one was correct. And we received the agreement less than 48 hours before the hearing. Late at night, I had one day. It took me till 11 o'clock with a GIS specialist to figure out that there was a difference because it didn't make sense to me. Not very many people have a GIS specialist on staff. Moreover, the legal descriptions in the notice at times include partial pins. Sometimes they didn't. They were grouped differently in the notice than they were in the annexation agreement. Some of the pins were doubled up in the different buckets that they were put in the notice. It literally took me a specialist to figure it out, to map it out. How many of the people in this audience do you think could have done that in 48 hours? I figured it out at 11 o'clock last night. It took me till 3 a.m. just to be able to provide what I was possibly able to today. And I have a lot more questions that are now pending because of what I've heard that I didn't have access to. Last, the petition is replete with omissions and deficient information on details that are essential to understand for you and for us, the scope of the project, how and where it will impact people and important resources. For these and many other reasons that I have included in the comments before you, that I'm relying upon, basically instead of continuing to speak, We respectfully request that this Plan Commission vote against adopting the Annexation and Development Agreement for North Point and whatever rezoning and annexation this provides for, since it is still unclear to me across the acres that would be this intermodal facility. Thank you for your time and attention. I do have a couple of questions, if I may, as far as points of clarification for the petitioner. So I'm confused when we're talking about a Manhattan Bridge. Would that then span Route 53 to take traffic west into the Joliet Army Training Area, where there is a weight restriction and land promised to Midday-Wind National Tallgrass Prairie?
That bridge is over Manhattan Road, east of 53.
Would it also move traffic west over 53?
No, again, it's not on Manhattan Road, it's over Manhattan
Okay,
Road. It runs north-south.
thank you for the clarification. I didn't have that information last night. Does your long-term plan no longer include a truck terminal or truck parking throughout and staging throughout the facility?
That has been removed.
So there will no longer be a truck terminal, ever?
The request in this application has been removed.
My question stands, what is the plan of Eastgate for a truck terminal on this property
There is no plan currently.
currently? Is there a long-term plan for this facility?
I can't predict the future.
Is there a long-term plan for this facility?
Again, I can't predict the future, but we've removed that request, and we're not asking for that.
So you're not answering the question.
He just answered it, Ms. Myers. You asked if he knew. He said there isn't a present plan.
Okay, we're gonna move on from that. Go ahead.
I asked for a long-term plan, sir.
You asked if there was a plan for a truck terminal, and he said not at this time. That's an answer, even in your legal world.
It's in our legal world. I think at this point I'm gonna hold on my questions. They're in a better form. Thank you so very much. I appreciate your time and your attention, and I beseech you to do the right thing. This is really, really important for you and for the region, the entire region. Thank you.
You know,
Matt Robbins?
can I ask a question first?
Oh.
I have a question on the annexation, you know, this point to point. You know, is there more than just whether you hit for the annexation, or are we gonna have?
Could we have the speaker stand up and identify himself? It's really rough.
No, it's me. On the annexation, you know, you have that point to point, where you're continuing the annexation? Is that all there is at that point?
So I believe Ms. Myers was referring to south of Manhattan Road, previously in front of.
Well, I'm talking about parcels 18 and 19 that show up on the map here.
Yeah, so she's actually incorrect. It was previously approved for an annexation agreement. And the annexation agreement does not require contiguity for a municipality to consider it and pass it subject to its terms. In order to actually annex into the municipality, you do need contiguity, and you cannot do it point to point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Karen.
Matt Robbins?
I'm sorry, you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Name and address, please?
Matt Robbins, 24757 South Sycamore Street in Elwood. Good evening. My name is Matt Robbins, and I'm the supervisor of Jackson Township. We as a board are completely against this project. We feel it is irresponsible and reckless to put more traffic on Route 53 and other local roads. As an elected official, it's getting very disheartening that there is no cooperation or communication on projects that are directly affecting our township. I don't understand the need for this project when Centerpoint admitted that they have between 1,200 and 1,500 acres left to build on. Let that build out first before we do this monster. This project will completely cut off Elwood and also completely surround the Cedar Creek and Gladdale neighborhoods to the north with warehouses. I'm sure you all realize Cedar Creek is in the city of Joliet. Those residents were promised they would have homes to the south and west of them, not warehouses and bridges. That's how we're gonna treat our residents? How about the guy that's got 5 lots that are being built that have cement in the ground right now in Cedar Creek? How much do you think he can sell those houses for when a 4-lane truck route is in his backyard? You know, we teach our kids not to bully other smaller kids. How do we explain this to them? That because someone is bigger, they can take what they want and leave the problems for the smaller communities? That is the epitome of a bully. And that is exactly what the people of Elwood, that's exactly what is happening to the people of Elwood and Jackson Township. This decision on this project could change the landscape of Will County forever. The decisions you make with your vote could do this. It will change Will County forever. You can't go back. Is this how you want to be remembered? Someone who just fell in line and did what they were told? Officials are supposed to be the voice of the people. I ask you, please listen and be that voice and vote no to North Point. Thank you.
Sylvia Riley. Sean Riley. Julia Baum Coldwater.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And state your name and address, please.
Would it be appropriate or accepted if I were to take my mask off?
It's entirely up to you.
Okay, great. Didn't want to violate the rules, but I have trouble with a mask and balance at the same time, so bear with me. Thank you. My name is Julia Baum Coldwater, and I live in unincorporated Jackson Township with an Elwood address. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide comments at this hearing. There is a map that I think was going to be put up on the screen that looks like this. I hope I'll move forward as, if you could turn it, yeah, that way. Great, thank you so much. Again, thank you for the opportunity to provide comments at this hearing. As I said, my name is Julia Baum Coldwater, and I am speaking on behalf of both my husband, Larry Coldwater, and myself. We are the owner-operators of Coldwater Seed Farm and Coldwater Farms, located in unincorporated Jackson Township and the village of Elwood. And we will be directly and negatively impacted by the proposed project if approved as presented to this body. My testimony concerns unique information and facts related to the direct negative impact on us personally and on our land and our business. Because our land is directly contiguous with the project footprint, we hold standing in this hearing. We have substantive testimony, and thus we did request an extension beyond the normal 4-minute limit to testify, which I understand is being granted pretty much to everyone. I was told that I would be granted a reasonable amount of time for my presentation. I want to go on the record that preparing this testimony has been extremely difficult for me because of the limited information that was made available to the public regarding this newest project proposal. During this week and up until Tuesday evening, the only written information that was available for the public to review was the Plan Commission agenda and the staff report for the hearing. And the parcel site exhibit that was referenced by the staff report could not be found for download, at least by me. I could not find it. The draft annexation and development agreement became available online sometime after 7 o'clock on Tuesday evening, leaving less than 48 hours to review and digest the draft proposal. Furthermore, there are no completed, revised, or even draft traffic studies available to the public for the acreage being considered, nor are there available environmental studies concerning the project or its impact on ground or surface water, drainage, and more. To begin, if this project is approved as presented, we personally could face the loss of land, damage to our land, loss of access to our land, damage to our business operation dependent on that land, potentially cutting our business operation in half, and thus we would experience loss of income. We also could face the loss of at least one historically supporting farmstead, and are at risk of losing a second historic farmstead. This one has been designated historically significant, and it already has been deemed eligible for landmark status in the National Register of Historic Places by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. With loss of those farmsteads, we would lose use of all buildings on those farmsteads as well. I have a number of specific concerns I'd like to highlight for you, and I have some general concerns. I'll try to watch my time. I suspect that some of the general concerns about the area overall, not just affecting us personally, I suspect that will be covered by others. As stated, our 540-acre farm is contiguous with the project footprint covered by the proposal under consideration. Our farm sits between the currently proposed southwestern border of Compass Business Park Joliet, along Chicago Road, that is to our east. And we are also contiguous with the roughly 200-acre Compass Business Park Elwood that is directly to our west. The map that's before you has our farm outlined in black, so you can see where we sit. Compass Business Park Elwood includes the projected site for Strawn Bridge, for the Strawn Bridge that would, in theory, cross Illinois 53 in the Union Pacific tracks. My first concern does relate to the Strawn Bridge and Compass Parkway. The petitioner includes in the proposed agreement a possible bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad tracks and 53, again, as stated in the location of Walter Strawn Drive and Ira Morgan Street, and a closed loop, what they are now listing as Compass Parkway, is needed to connect the Strawn Bridge to Rail Road within the project footprint with all the necessary improvements, including curbage and restricting ditches and that kind of thing. If built as stipulated in the proposal, the bridge and closed loop would require use of our property, despite the fact that we are not and will not be under Joliet's jurisdiction. Our land is the only feasible location for a proposed closed loop connecting Joliet Compass Business Park and Elwood Compass Business Park and Strawn Bridge. Whether placed on Mississippi Avenue or another location, this closed loop would bisect our farm, and if built as specified, would effectively cut off our access to the farmland north of the loop, making those fields landlocked, preventing them from being farmed. We would lose access to at least 135 acres of productive farmland, and this number could be higher depending on the actual placement of the supposed closed loop. This landlocking will substantially diminish our property value for farming purposes. Furthermore, we also would face restricted access to all land south of the closed loop due to the projected road improvements and the truck traffic that would be on there. The current proposal, the information presented, would you mind if I ran and got my water bottle? I've got it. Sorry. You want to be able to understand me, so. Furthermore, related to the Strong Bridge and Compass Parkway, in the current proposal and information presented at public meetings and other discussions that have taken place related to Compass Business Park, all of those indicate that we could face an actual loss of farmland, homesteads, and buildings. Further projected roadways, easements, pedestrian walkway easements, bike path easements, and further landscaping all threaten our land and farmsteads. We would lose property. Another issue that I have brought up and would like to elaborate on a little bit more, there would be a threat to historic buildings and sites owned by us. The pursuit of Strawn Bridge would pose a direct threat to historical buildings and sites. As stated, the Coldwater Farms homestead and farm along Chicago Road has been designated officially eligible for listing as a historic site. The closed loop would have to cut through this property, thus damaging this historic farm and causing, again, actual loss of land. There are 2 additional homesteads and farms that have been deemed significant or supportive to Will County historically. One of these farmsteads would likely be totally lost with the creation of the closed loop as planned. It would take that farmstead out just for the road. Those are our concerns about the bridge and about the closed loop. However, the project proposal also has discussion about additional road development. It specifically references Mississippi Avenue and Chicago Road. According to the proposed agreement, the developer shall be responsible for the improvement of any existing road located on or immediately adjacent to the property. That includes Chicago Road, which is also adjacent to the historic Coldwater Farms. The developer also speaks of extending Mississippi Avenue east of Chicago Road to Rowell Road. The agreement states that the Mississippi extension will be anywhere from 3 to 5 lanes. The way the project is discussed, it appears that Mississippi and the extension of Mississippi would basically become Compass Parkway. We will face problems directly related to some of the proposals concerning just basic roads. Proposed truck barricades and road development, including projected curbage along Chicago Road, will directly interfere with our farming operation and our equipment. Field access and necessary use of roads during harvest and planting season would be restricted, further harming our farming operation and making it extremely difficult, if not impossible at certain times. The extension of Mississippi into Compass Business Park poses a flood risk, as the planned road will be built directly over an established and natural waterway, which then runs to a floodplain which also is projected to be built upon and paved over. In looking at the maps that were presented by North Point for Compass Business Park, I do not see retention ponds at all in those areas to accommodate the water. The area feeding that waterway currently is prone to flooding despite previous roadway and culvert improvements at the current Mississippi Avenue and Chicago Road intersection. The presented proposal fails to provide evidence that the road development and other building in the floodplain, other building in the floodplain will not increase flooding on our property. So the project puts us at risk in that way. A final point, just dealing with roads. The projected employee and other traffic creates a hardship for our farming operation. The extension of Mississippi Avenue into the project footprint will draw considerable employee and box truck traffic seeking to access the southern part of the project as of the planned project. At a recent meeting, Mr. George actually, off the top of his head, estimated 20,000 employees at build-out, which now I'm finding is very different from some of the numbers being projected that we did not have available. Going with Mr. George's numbers, that would suggest up to 6,000 employees or more per shift, or 6,000 plus cars or vehicles possibly coming and going per shift. And a considerable amount of this would use the access point at Mississippi. So that creates hardship for us. You will be going right through our farm if that is the case, using Mississippi as an access point. We also have general surface water and floodwater concerns. There have been no surface water studies or specific plans made available for the public to review which address issues such as current floodplains, natural water flow areas which will be paved over, or current tile systems in the project footprint which connect with adjacent farmland not within the project footprint. There's talk of doing that, but it's not been made available at this point for your consideration to see if it's even feasible. We have drainage that needs to flow freely into more than one area of Compass Business Park. Our fields could be impacted by broken field tiles during Compass Business Park construction. And again, the petitioner has not provided evidence that tile systems and natural waterways will be protected. Another issue that affects us directly. There is a threat to private wells if this project is built. The proposed annexation and development agreement strongly suggests that the project could pose a threat to all local wells, and not just ours, all in the area. We have 4 just on our property that all serve residences on the property. There is a risk of the drying up of wells, yet there's no evidence presented to indicate that there is even adequate groundwater for development of this size without impacting the wells of the residences and maybe even smaller businesses in the area that use well water. We have a final concern about health and quality of life. The project's proximity to us would have a direct negative impact to our health and quality of life. Even the conservative traffic estimates of 3,600 trucks per day for the original footprint previously approved would increase diesel exhaust near our residents, causing a serious threat to our family members with chronic respiratory disease. We have 2 in our family. It should be noted that prior traffic studies, one done for North Point and another from a separate source, placed the traffic figures at 6,000 trucks up to 16,000 trucks per day, respectively, when the smaller version of the project was being considered by the Village of Elwood. So it's hard to understand how the current figures of roughly 3,600 trucks per day was developed, considering prior studies for a smaller development places the number much higher. Overall, the project poses a grave risk to us personally. This project, as planned, will cause, again, loss of access to our land. It will cause grave harm and loss to our land, our farming and business operation, our income, and our well-being, and likely will substantially diminish our property value for farming purposes. The general broader concerns, I will not elaborate, but I want to at least list them. There is a great concern in the area over increased traffic, both truck traffic and employee traffic, on an already inadequate crumbling infrastructure. Current planned improvements to our current planned improvements to our interstate will help the current traffic problems only. It is not intended to address the amount of traffic that would be generated by a project of this size. Another issue is air pollution. There will be an increase in air pollution, especially diesel particulate. Sorry. And there will be an increase in pollution, and particularly of diesel particulate matter. The significant increase in truck and car traffic will put the public at risk. There are other testimonies that have been out there over the past couple of hearings and meetings that have already demonstrated the existing dangerous levels of pollution in our area already. Another issue that many are concerned with is the threat overall of increased flooding due to the paving over of once productive farmland in areas heavy with creeks and wetlands. Again, no evidence has been presented to indicate that there would be adequate handling of surface water to avoid flooding downstream from the project for the 3 creeks that run through the property. Right now, people just downstream on Jackson Creek, just on the west side of Illinois 53, have persistent flooding in their yards. If the water situation is not handled appropriately, their homes will flood. And that is a risk that they face. Despite what has been attested to, I disagree with property values. I think there will be a likely decrease in property values for the surrounding residences due to industrial growth around them. In a prior discussion, there were discussions about the 2018-2019 increase in housing values for Elwood, and it was made a big deal of. The issue, though, is that those housing prices went up after the North Point project was rejected by the Village of Elwood and not before. So I think we need to rethink what will happen with housing values. There will be an overall loss of quality of life overall in the area due to all the issues that I have mentioned, just to name a few. I will not go into it here, but I also do want to go on the record of expressing my concern over the direct negative impact that there will be on the Abraham Lincoln Veteran Cemetery, with a greatly increased threat of errant trucks trying to get into the cemetery. And I also am greatly concerned about maintaining the integrity of Medewa and Tallgrass Prairie, and do feel it will be threatened. I have put into the record via email an elaboration on some of these points. Thank you very much for your time. In light of all of this, my husband and I urge you to vote no for this project. Thank you.
Teresa Papish.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Teresa Papish. I live at 17757 Bicentennial Drive in Elwood. We are, if you want to put that map back up, please. We are the subdivision off of Ridge Road where that large white section is. To the far, it would be my right on the map. That's where we live. We built our house 32 years ago by hand, by ourselves. My husband is a union iron worker, and we've lived in Manhattan, Elwood, and Joliet. Ralph grew up in Joliet, and I grew up in Manhattan. We moved out to Elwood, and now our entire extended family lives within an 8-mile radius of this. The people that Julie was talking about that are getting flooded over on Quail Court, I included a picture in my email that I sent you today, if you could look that up. That's our son-in-law and daughter-in-law, or my daughter and our son-in-law. My parents, who are in their 80s, are on Ridge Road on the Manhattan side of this monstrosity that is thankfully protected till 2026. So if they're around at 2026, I'm still going to be fighting for all of us. Our property is a little under 14 acres in between the two subdivisions. It is all hand-dug stone quarries from the 1930s. We do flood occasionally. There have been times, because our driveway goes down through one of the quarries, there have been times that we have not been able to get out of the house. We are stuck up on an island. It's a very short amount of time. It goes up and down. If we don't have a complete study of what this water is going to do, that creek goes through that entire subdivision. To get all the way up to our house, our neighbors on the other side of the creek will be completely flooded. So we need to see a comprehensive plan. When they came to Elwood in 2017, they came and they were found out. So then they had an open house to present us with a plan. But at least at that time, it was a comprehensive plan on paper that you could see and understand. This is piecemeal together with what they could come up with and try to get passed, actually. When I asked Mr. George in, I think it was last year at one of their meetings at Stone City Hall, he had an open house. I asked if this project was going to include the land right directly next to me. And he said, no, we don't own that. No, this isn't part of the project. Well, now all of a sudden it's part of the project, and so is everything else in around, everything else they could possibly get their hands on, basically. So it goes up and around. It's still not contiguous. It doesn't meet the criteria, and we are totally against this. The air pollution alone, the environmental impact to Medewin and to the Village of Elwood, the Village of Manhattan, the City of Joliet, all three of us will be impacted by this in such a negative way that it's going to basically decimate the entire area. I now changed all of my doctors and every appointment or anything I need away from Joliet because I can't get here. It takes me at least an hour and a half to get to an appointment on time from Elwood to Joliet. It's ridiculous. It just isn't going to work. The environmental impact, they were talking about a water tower plan. All of us in the rural areas have wells. What is that going to do to the water table in our wells? We also, between the water table, the drainage problem, the flooding problem, the infrastructure is not available in Will County, period. It's a limited financial gain that is only going to benefit North Point. or Compass Business Park or Eastgate or whatever they're calling themselves at this particular time. We are personally very against it. I have a rare metabolic disorder. It's sulfite intolerance, but when I'm exposed to too much diesel exhaust, it puts me into an asthma attack. My body doesn't process sulfur and sulfite correctly, so if I'm behind a truck stuck in a traffic jam, I am in trouble. I have literally gone, we were on our way to University of Chicago for a vocal cord dysfunction test. We got stuck behind one of those trucks, and this was before I knew what it was I had. I was just having these asthma attacks all the time, uncontrollably, lots of emergency runs. We got stuck behind the truck. I said, forget going for the test, take me to the emergency room. I am not okay. So that has happened, many times before. I figured out some of what I need to do for that. But if I have 10,000 diesel trucks going right by my property, we are literally on the property line right with North Point. We will share it. We're not 600 feet away. We're not even 100 feet away. So the closest point that they can get to build to our house and our entire property is right next to the house. We feel as taxpayers, we are going to be impacted by what this is going to do to the entire region. The additional fire and police and all those services that you're going to need, you're going to leave yourself wide open to needing all of these things for a small revenue. It's not going to bring to Will County what we think it is. Centerpoint surely didn't bring to Elwood what they thought it was going to. They're now millions of dollars in debt. So please, please consider that this isn't a project for right now. Centerpoint is not built out all the way. So why can't we slow this down, see what happens in the next few years, let them come up with a more comprehensive plan than this piecemealed all over the place that is basically going to decimate the whole entire area. Thank you.
Donna Rosendale.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. State your name and address, please.
I'm sorry?
State your name and address, please.
My name is Donna Rosendale. I live at 24711 South Sycamore Street in Elwood. It's Jackson Township. I have some questions about some of the numbers that have been provided by North Point, Compass, Eastgate Logistics. First of all, I don't know what the real name is that's being represented here. There's four different names that I see on the paperwork, so I'm kind of confused. First of all, who's doing what the project is. But I was at the meeting at Knoll Rec Center a week ago, and the numbers that were provided to us at that time was that the employees' numbers were going to be anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 when fully built out, and that was just for the employees. A year or two ago, we were told there were going to be 10,000 trucks going through. Now we're hearing that it could be around 4,400, but it's trips. To me, a trip is there and back. So that's 10,000, 8,000 to 10,000 when you're talking about a trip and them doing a round trip thing. I also have, I object, and I represent my mother, who is the homeowner. She's hearing impaired and can't hear what's going on, so I have to speak for her. And I do live with her, so, sincerely object to this project. My parents built this home 20 years ago before the racetrack was proposed, before the centerport was proposed, and it was all rural. They're on the corner of Knoll and Bridge. They're on the southwest corner of Knoll and Bridge. And so there's a second bridge that is also proposed in this latest packet that is supposed to go across Breen Road over 53. And that was what was presented last week. That's just in the land vacant north of us. There's some homes a row of homes between us and that vacant lot, but it's only about a half mile long, that piece of property. How many lanes of truck traffic traffic will be on there? Is it just a one lane each way? Is it 2 lanes? Is it 3 lanes? There's no information been provided on how large that particular bridge will be once completed. But it was also proposed that they cul-de-sac off the Millsdale Road and block that train, block that lane so the cars and vehicles can't go through. Well, that would be 2,500 employees in Centerpoint now having to come south down to the Breen Road and take that bridge over to get into Centerpoint. So that's in addition to all the truck traffic going back and forth. How are they exiting out back onto Breen Road? Well, is there a light proposed? Is there turn lanes proposed? What's the infrastructure on Route 53 to support all these vehicles coming in and out? And also, has IDOT approved the bridge over Route 53 at either the cemetery on Strawn Road or up on the Breen Road, as the railroad approved a bridge over the railroad tracks on Millsdale? These are things that we need to have considered and brought to light before things get added and put on the agenda, because there's no clarity at this point what exactly the proposal is to complete this out. And that land in between, on the west side of Route 53, between Knoll Road all the way up to Millsdale, was originally slotted to be all residential. They're talking about taking a huge chunk of that land and now making that warehouses and a bridge. And that's going to be a real nuisance for all the residents right there. Not only is it going to be the truck traffic, but Will County has its own ordinances regarding noise abatement. And it says in all residential districts, all business districts immediately adjacent to residential districts within unincorporated Will County, no noise as defined may be emitted from the property between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. How is that going to affect us if you approve this? They're violating your own Will County ordinance number, 133.04. And that's clearly stated. Will County says from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., no noise if you're up in a residential area. And like I said, there's residences on both sides of where they're proposing to put these things, just in that one little section between Knoll and Millsdale, west of Route 53, all the way to the railroad track. And that should be considered. Also last week, the developer stated that they would purchase all impacted homes. Is there a zone for that? We're adjacent to the homes right up against your property. Are we included in being able to take advantage of sale of our home if we choose to leave because of the noise and the extra build outs? Also, we're told not to worry about the truck traffic. It's going to be a closed loop. I don't know about that entirely, and I did not get a satisfactory answer when I was at the meeting last week. You have trucks going back and forth to intermodal, moving containers. Yes, they move them from the trains, the barges, whichever it is, and they move them over to the warehouses, where you have all these employees unloading them. But guess what? They don't stay in warehouses. And intermodal, or North Point, Compass, whatever, is only worried and concerned about point A to B, from the trains and the barges to the warehouses. There's nothing beyond that. So that does not mean we're not going to have trucks all over Route 53 and Manhattan Road when this gets developed. Now, it's light industrial. Does that mean we have to go with 24-foot trucks, box trucks, instead of 18-wheelers? Well, an 18-wheeler can handle one, or let's put it this way. A 24-foot truck can handle two 18-wheelers. So you have to, or backwards. 2 box trucks for one 18-wheeler. That's the way it is. 2 box trucks for every one 18-wheeler. Those containers are 40 feet. So there's going to be a lot of freight going in and out, and they have to move that. It's going to be going on your surface streets. Manhattan, I had no idea. I knew they had a lot of trucks, but 1,000 trucks per day through downtown Manhattan? That's awful. There's got to be another way to do that. But we don't have the infrastructure for that. We need to build the infrastructure before we put these places in so that we can accommodate them when they get here. I understand they're probably coming at some point with this kind of stuff. It is the right location, but it's not right now. We don't have all the property that they need in contiguous and a nice central area. You have people living in these areas. Relocate them, figure it out before they move in and then have to figure it out personally one-on-one. Take the neighborhood and figure out where they're going to move them, or move this to another location where it suits. But don't impact all these people without first giving that infrastructure a reference for it. And there's been no information on what their road improvements were going to be to Route 53, to Manhattan, Moni, to all these different roads. I think that needs to be figured out before doing anything as well. And so I appreciate your time, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Alejandro Gutierrez.
Do you promise to tell the whole truth? I'm sorry, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, state your name and address again, please.
19544 West Sharp Road. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I'm a 44-year member of the laborers, and I've lived over there for 48 years. Now, that was when Joliet still had a downtown, right? Now, what gets me about all this going on, when they came in for annexation, they promised you at Green and Ridge that they were going to build warehousing. That was 3 or 4 years ago, wasn't it? How many warehouses have been put up? Any? If it's going to be like that, then they're going to just say, you know what? Why should we build here? Let's start over there, right? Now, they talk about these bridges. Well, if you put a bridge over Route and Manhattan Road and one over Green and 53, what's to stop the trucks from going straight and going over to Schweitzer Road? Are you going to block that road off? Where's the traffic going to go from the employee traffic if they want to go on 53? Now that you've got a bridge over it. And another thing is, when you come out here and tell people that Romeoville has got warehousing, they do. They also have 5-ton weight limits on every road except for the main drag. Wyndham Lakes got Remington Boulevard. That takes them from Weber Road all the way to 53, just north of I-55. Shorewood, they've got weight limits too, and they got people to patrol it, police. Joliet has 1 truck patrol out there, let's say, maybe 2 times a week, right? And they're only out there for about an hour. Now, when you're talking about nobody builds out there, Matt Rollins just told you 5 foundations already in, basements. That's only west of 53. You get north of Millsdale Road, there's 5 more. So they're building out there. And if you give it time, and if those take off, that subdivision will take off, and they'll start building where they had lots before. We don't need no more warehouses. You're not telling anybody how you're gonna mitigate your employee traffic. Or you're gonna be like Centerpoint. Go wherever you want, as long as you get off the property for the next shift. We get them all the time. You know that if somebody slows down, they'll go right around the ditch to pass them. They'll go in our front yards. Would you like that happening in your area? And last but not least, a show of hands. How many on the planning commission value the homeowners out there, their way of life? Show of hands.
Sure.
1. That kind of tells me how you're gonna vote. Thank you.
Eric Bosman. Mike Makovsky. James Walsh.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Jimmy Walsh. I'm supervisor of Manhattan Township. I live at 25959 South Cedar Road, Manhattan. Well, here we are. Same old place, same old story. Just a different day and a different bridge. I know the union needs the work. I'm a 45-year member of Local 174 Carpenters, and I love the union. Without them, we wouldn't have half of what we do. They have done us well. This project, I want the work for the unions, but it's in the wrong place. It should not be out there in the middle of this farm country. That's absolutely ridiculous. If what I hear about the staff report is correct, they say North Point will be able to start building on the new 900 acres or more without the bridge being built. This is absolutely crazy. You know that means the bridge will never get built once they get their foot in the door. The whole thing is this development should not be built out there in the middle of completely farm country. Just because some outfit comes from Kansas City and tells us this is where we need to build their facility because they bought up a bunch of farm ground right here in Jackson Township. I know they keep talking about this so-called closed loop, but we know that all of the thousands of trucks that have to get into it somehow, and they will be coming from every direction possible. We know it, it happens today. They have to get to their destination. I don't care if their destination will be that closed loop bridge, supposedly. That also means we will have to keep rebuilding our township road at our expenses because nobody has said anything about taking care of all these roads that these trucks cross. And they already crossed Manhattan Township from every direction. Baker Road has a single lane bridge on it, and we catch semis out there on that road. And the trouble is with townships, we do not have a police force. So if somebody does see one of these box trucks coming, which they do, because you know these truckers are going to take the shortest route to wherever they can get. I mean, they're trying to make a living. That's perfectly understandable. But we have to call the county and try to hold these truckers until the county gets there. Or you can guess how that turns out. One of the biggest points is they say that approximately 50% of Center Point is still available, and that is right between I-55 and the rail system. The unions still would get all of the work there. It would be good for them. I understand North Point wants to make a lot of money. Everybody does. That's why we live. But you are going to be building a concrete jungle between Joliet and your neighboring towns of Elwood and Manhattan. The trouble is that this is at the expense of the people's way of life, and this will change our lives forever. Thank you.
David Harris.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
My name is David Harris. I live on 19438 Knoll Road, but just on the south side of this property, but right up to it. I ask you all to vote no for this project, mainly because of traffic and infrastructure reasons. I know we're beating a dead dog here, but many times we've been in front of this committee in the city of Joliet, and these meetings are open to people who can approve and agree with these things, but yet any meeting I've ever been to, I haven't had one person ever be here begging you to do these things. We're all here begging you not to, but yet continually things keep getting approved and keep happening. That means that nobody cares what the people want. They only care where the money's at. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious, and it gets frustrating. As for the traffic, I mean, I'm against this for many reasons everybody here has stated. Those reasons are obvious. If you were to go along with and say that the Hobolt Road extension and this closed loop were a good thing, and you were to vote yes for this and go ahead for this because you think that's going to alleviate it, how long before Interstate 80 is done? There's plans for Interstate 80 to get done, right? No one knows how long this could take, where the money's at for this. Why would you do this before then? If you got a bad heart, a bad aorta valve, and it's not working real well, which is Interstate 80, so you're gonna go down in your leg, which would be the Hobolt extension or this closed loop, and you're gonna put a new vein in there. It's gonna increase blood flow to that aorta, which is gonna further stress it. What do you think's gonna happen to that heart? It sure isn't gonna last when you increase blood flow somewhere else up to that bad valve, which Interstate 80 is our main valve through here, which has been overloaded for 10 to 15 years, because all of these things keep getting voted yes. And I'm not just condemning the city of Joliet. Elwood building the rail yard, New Lenox building buildings, Bolingbrook. Heck, these guys did my evidence for me. They showed you all the buildings, all the bad decisions that have been done here for 10 to 15 years. That doesn't make them right. Timing is everything. Like the movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Well, you've let them build these giant rail yards, so here they come. They're coming, right? We're forced to deal with it. It doesn't matter. Interstate 80 cannot handle this. And I've heard time and time again, 80 is not your problem. Well, when you vote yes for these things and you allow them to come in, you contribute to the problem. And when Interstate 80 backs up, and it was backed up on my way to this meeting today, you know where all the traffic was going? Getting off on 53, getting off on Richard Street, getting off on any exit they can get off on to avoid 80. So if you allow this, and this closed loop works well, and Hobolt Road works well, and it all drives it to Interstate 80. And they said 10 to 20,000 potential employees at their meeting that I went to. He said they can come from all directions. Well, let me quote you what he said. They did a study that helped me out. They sat on the corner of Millsdale Road and 53, and they told me that 3,000 vehicles came from the north and turned onto Millsdale. Only 54 came from the south and turned onto Millsdale, but yet they're going to tell us that their employees are going to come from a 360. Are they pulling from a different employee pool than everybody else around here? That tells me, I don't know the percentage, but 3,000 compared to 54, they all came from the north. They all came from 80, from Indiana, from wherever. How is 80 going to handle this traffic? Now is not the time to vote yes to build any more of this stuff. 80 has to get done first. And I've only heard proposals for a third lane to come in sections through Will County. We're 15 years past the third lane. That was before any of this other stuff was done. We need a fourth and fifth lane. You go to Kansas City, I've been to Kansas City where a lot of this stuff's been built and where they came from. They got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lanes, 30, 40 miles every direction of it. We got 2-lane Interstate 80 trying to handle their words, world's biggest intermodal system. I mean, does that make any sense to anybody? We cannot continue to do this. We need a commitment from you guys in the city of Joliet to start making better decisions and to say there's not money for roads, there's not money for this. Again, world's largest intermodal system. Where's all the money? Who's benefiting? We can't afford to fix a 2-lane, 1964 built interstate through Will County with the world's largest infrastructure shipping thing going on here? It doesn't make sense. I beg you to vote no. Now is not the time. We need to do the right thing. Thank you.
Stephanie Irving.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Are you coming over?
Sure.
My name is Stephanie Irvine. I'm a Jackson Township resident, and I'm a member of Open Lands in the Sierra Club. I oppose the annexation and rezoning for North Point development. When I requested by FOIA the information required to understand a development of this scale, including the traffic studies that were referenced in the presentation, air quality, water, other environmental studies, as well as projections regarding water usage, I was denied. And that's currently waiting on appeal with the Attorney General's office. No concept map has also been provided for this project. What is evident is North Point's embarrassing desperation to get a shovel in the ground and the city's willingness to go along with such a spurious, insufficient agreement that gives North Point carte blanche to do whatever they want without regard for anything other than their own interest. Approval of the annexation and rezoning agreement would be detrimental to the city and the surrounding communities, deprive individuals of property rights, and produce extreme environmental harms. Despite what little information has been provided, it is clear that approval of this project and agreement will be injurious to my family and community in the following ways. With an undoubted increase in air pollution, my health will be harmed, especially as an asthmatic. The viability of my well may be compromised by the significant water demands, this project, and dangerous runoff that could taint the groundwater. Our quality of life, hobbies, and the reasons for which we bought our property, where we bought our property, will be destroyed. Our safety as we travel within our community will be compromised. Our ability to rent land from farmers will be jeopardized due to access constraints. Flooding this project may impact our ability to utilize our land for our family business. Property values will be impacted, and with provisions for eminent domain, we don't know if our property will be taken. And the character of the area will be permanently and negatively altered. The consistent lack of transparency, information, and a clear plan is short-sighted, but par for the course with this project. I oppose this proposal as the information put forth is flawed, the research is inadequate, and due diligence has not been conducted. Thank you.
Delilah Legret.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Delilah Legret, 17253 Ron Court. I'm a Jackson Township resident, a member of Open Lands and Sierra Club. I am here to speak in opposition to the rezoning and annexation before you. These kinds of developments have been constantly prioritized over the long-term health and prosperity of individuals and communities. My property that is equipped with a private well is at risk of drying up or being contaminated by pollution from products seeping into the groundwater. It also backs to Manhattan Road, which would be a main thoroughfare for employee traffic, as well as truck traffic leaving the closed loop to deliver to the end user. There is no indication that there is an intent to improve the roadway behind my home or add sound barriers to abutting residential properties. Adding thousands of vehicles per day to a 2-lane rural road would have a profound impact on myself and others in the subdivision in which I reside. There are seemingly no studies on the impact of this project to review. No traffic, noise, air, or water studies exist for this new portion of the project, which is incredibly large and now includes another protected area, Sugar Creek.
Even without new studies, the basic overview of this proposal shows it now to be in excess of 2,000 acres with multiple attachments to rail access. This is what the city of Joliet has IT zoning for. A Category C industrial park IT district would be the most appropriate zoning, and I-1 should not be considered. Ultimately, this annexation and rezoning indicated a deprivation of my property rights because it would change the landscape of my home and property so drastically, you may as well be condemning it. To recommend annexation and rezoning against all other recommendations and without having necessary studies would be arbitrary and capricious. I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Steph Perez.
Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, state your name and address, please.
Hi, good evening. My name's Steph Perez, address 1154 Kenmore Avenue. I'm with the Indiana, Illinois, Iowa Foundation for Fair Contracting. We're a non-for-profit organization dedicated to the betterment of the construction industry. We represent more than 100 contractors and 2,200 workers in Will County. We support the North Point project because it's a $1.5 billion private sector investment and will lead to hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue for the city, the county, school districts, and park districts. It'll also lead to 1,600 construction jobs, 10,000 full-time jobs, good jobs with good pay with opportunities to make those jobs even better jobs in the future as the global economy becomes more and more reliant on Will County. North Point is a great opportunity for Joliet and Will County. Thank you for your time.
Dan McCarron.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your name and address, please.
Dan McCarron, Jackson Township. I actually live on Schweitzer Road. I kind of get a kick out of what has been going on here tonight. And I'm getting a little civics lesson because it occurred to me I could actually learn extra things while things are going on here. And I learned that from watching some of the cell phone play that's going on. So I thought, hey, maybe I could play with my cell phone. And I don't know much about you folks. So I got on the cell phone and I found out, you know, that this here, I'm pretty sure it's Bridget.
No.
No? Okay. Well, I don't know. Are you a member of the board? Are you?
I'm not, I'm the corporation counsel.
Oh,
And sir, you're not going to address individual members of the commission. If you have a statement, make your statement.
I thought we were allowed to talk with you folks.
And there are
Well, let me
rules
ask
to
you
that speaking, and you will follow those rules.
Okay, thank you. Well, I've got a question for the group.
You are not here to ask the commission questions. You're here to make a statement or ask questions of the petitioners.
Thank you. Earlier tonight, you indicated we could ask questions of the commission, but perhaps I'm mistaken.
You are mistaken.
Thank you. Earlier tonight, we had in the course of your proceedings, there was a motion to strike or to table some of the plans that were supposed to be heard here tonight. Immediately, we had a gentleman here that was more than willing to make the motion, and we had a second, and I think we went across the board. I think it was unanimous. Somebody, a member of your community, comes up here and gives valid reasons why you should table. You didn't even have a reason to table. There was no reason spoken. And you guys rubber stamped that deal. So I got on the phone, and I'm like, I gotta figure out this here a little bit. God bless you. None of you are paid to be here. You all were appointed by a mayor. You all been sitting here since, like most of you, since 2017. You're not getting paid. You don't got any skin in the game. You don't live in that area, probably. I don't know. So you guys were able to, you just went and said, this so-and-so wants to table this deal for tonight. You all said, great, let's do it. Somebody else steps up and asks for a table with serious issues. Not one of you had the guts or the personal dignity or integrity to say, hey, listen, let's find out, let's take a vote, let's get it on record. Somebody might want to table it. Oh, we're all just gonna say, oh, no. You got this group over here. You got statements from them, they're feeding the food kitchens, they're bringing a truck in the neighborhood to help everybody out, they're sending food down to the Mississippi River. They're great. They want to stick with us. They want to help the community. They want to interact with us. We're going to develop this. We're going to work with you. It's going to be something we're all going to be proud of. Not one of these folks said, hey, you know what? Maybe we ought to table this. There's a lot of people in the room want to table. Let's table. All right, you know, an argument that I've heard here, I've heard across the city and stuff, people say, well, you don't know what North Point's going to do because, you know, they haven't done it yet. So you can't say anything. Well, I live on Schweitzer Road. I've got a small farm. I've listened to somebody has 500 acres. I only got 10. I'm a farmer. And I work. And I'm in the union. And yes, we make a lot of money doing this work. I think it's great. But nobody shoved me up here tonight to tell you that we can work. It doesn't matter where we work. If it's a good plan, great. If it's not, you ought to wake up to it. You got a lot of people telling you it's not a good idea. And this thing just gets rubber stamped through. It starts here, it snowballs through, it's the city, it's out. Getting back to my farm, you don't know what's gonna happen. Nobody knows. I know very well. You're here in this closed loop. And I told you earlier tonight, while you're here looking at this big closed loop, it's just rubber stamped through another deal where you got a bunch of stuff that's scattering off of 53, got nothing to do with the closed loop. And you're taking out residential. And you're putting in the commercial. Oh, the closed loop, the trucks. Yeah, the trucks. And like everybody else, quite a few people told you here tonight. The accessory, these guys are saying, oh, we're only gonna bring that in. No, all them construction trucks, all the construction workers, there's 1,600 construction workers, there's 6,000. Every one of them is driving a car, in and out. Every piece of material that goes into all this project is in and out. And I'll tell you where it goes. It goes down the side streets, it goes down Schweitzer, it goes down Millsdale, it goes throughout the community. Nobody's gonna follow that. You say, oh, we'll put up truck signs, we'll put up load limits. I live on Schweitzer Road, 10-ton load limit, big sign, no trucks. Signs out of 53, no trucks. Guess what Schweitzer is? It's a shortcut into Center Point. It is a construction access for Center Point. But it's not on any of the plans you guys ever saw. They run heavy trucks, they run low boys, 80,000-pound machines on them. The road is a chip seal road with a skim coat of asphalt over it. What's Joliet doing about it? They got the jurisdiction. Nothing. They'll send a cop down there once in a while. If you call up on them, half hour, 40 minutes later, well, guess what? You know what? The truck's not going to sit there and wait for the cop. They went, during this COVID scare, back a year ago, April, they come out and shut down our road. They blocked off at the railroad. Then they used that for construction. They worked all winter. They're pulling stuff in and out of there. Now, what the deal was with Schweitzer Road when they started Center Point, they went and bought a bunch of houses west of the railroad tracks. That was supposed to be a buffer. Well, the buffer slid all the way across the tracks. Like you'd say, someone says, you guys are talking tonight about a buffer, and it's like those fences 12 foot high or 16 foot high. They're talking about a buffer from Brandon Road all the way to train tracks is probably a quarter mile or so. Bought quite a few homes. So you thought, hey, look, I'm on the other side of the tracks. Hey, they put a buffer in for us. We're in good shape. Well, a buffer now, like I say, the construction goes all the way across the railroad tracks. Then they close the thing off. I buy a house, I got a road to 53, I got a road out to Brandon, I can go all the way out, I can go to back roads anywhere I want to go. All of a sudden, no notice, I live on a dead-end street. Hey, that's progress. Well, what kind of progress? And you say, how are things going to affect me? Right now, you can stand in my front yard and you can see the Harbor Freight warehouse well, Dan, you're being unreasonable. So what, there's a warehouse over there? No, it's in the middle of Schweitzer Road. The village gave away, sold, or made a deal. It's on Schweitzer Road. When you come down Schweitzer Road, you're looking at a warehouse. It used to be a clear road out for all you wanted to go. None of this was displayed to folks like you when this all got rubber stamped through. So we get back to why, if citizens that live here make a reasonable request. I got a bunch of notes I wrote while I'm thinking, sitting here. I didn't know about this. I've heard about it through the grapevine yesterday. I took off work to come out here to talk, to let you guys know. I don't expect anything different than what I've seen here before. I expect a rubber stamp. God bless one of you who would just stand up and say, you know what? Maybe at least we ought to table the damn thing and take a look at it. You've heard from this one lady, very, very well spoken. She's got facts before, and she's telling you, I don't have the stuff to be able to look at it and be able to critically work with it in short notice. And if this was just presented to you folks tonight, and you're just, okay, let's go, let's vote. How do you do that? We're just, a lot of us in the room are learning it tonight, what it is, or where the changes are. Some people thought that changes may not be right, and you don't know. I don't want to take up too much of your time because you're not getting paid. But, so, show of hands, did anyone on this board tonight hear something about an increase in green space? Did anyone hear that statement tonight by the petitioners? Anybody?
We're not here to ask the commissioners questions.
I'm asking for a show of hands. I'm not asking to answer a question. Show of hands, did anybody hear of an increased green space with this North Point deal? No answers. I guess the answer is no. Well, it actually was spoken. The problem with it is there's no increase in green space. You're going to bulldoze out fields, and you're going to come back and you're going to throw in 8,000 trees. How many trees are getting bulldozed out? How many bushes are getting bulldozed out? How many square foot of building and parking lot and roadways are putting in? You don't get an increase in green space when you bulldoze it out. Now, I had to stand up here and swear to tell the truth, and I'm telling the truth. There's a record of this here tonight, and on the record, you got someone telling you that you're going to have more green space in that project. And that's either a bald-faced lie, or you got somebody that's telling you a bunch of bull, and they don't even know better either. Good luck when you consider it. Thanks.
Christina Samet.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Christina Samet, and I live in Jackson Township. I live on the footprint of Compass Business Park, the proposal. So I actually have a question for Tim Sjogren of Kimley Horn, if you don't mind. My question is, where's the traffic impact study?
We're working to develop that with the state, the county, and the city staff.
So do I understand correctly that the Plan Commission doesn't have the traffic impact study and it hasn't been submitted to the city of Joliet?
A study is being developed with the city, the state, and the county, yes.
Has it been submitted to the city of Joliet?
It is being developed, no.
So they don't have any drafts of it?
There's a draft of the previous submittal, and we are developing an update to that study to reflect the current proposal.
Okay, so there's no traffic impact study reflecting the current proposal in the hands of the city of Joliet right now?
That's correct.
Okay, and will it be there before we meet in December 21st?
I'm not sure. We're working with the city and the county on the scope of the study to be done.
You're not sure if it's going to be ready for when they vote?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That was my question. Okay, appreciate it. So thank you. I have 4 points, and I think I can do it fairly quickly. So my first point is about the language in the draft annexation agreement that refers to eminent domain and condemnation. So I'm a layperson, I'm not a lawyer. My understanding of eminent domain and condemnation It's a process where a municipality seizes the property of private citizens, and it should be reserved for circumstances where this seizure is justified by a benefit to the public good. Under no circumstances should this severe infringement of individual property rights be used for the exclusive benefit of a private sector company. That's my understanding. I think that's every common citizen's understanding of this process. North Point proposed in the draft annexation agreement to use eminent domain and condemnation in order to build their roads and bridges. It's explicitly stated in the agreement. North Point's roads benefit North Point. North Point's bridges benefit only North Point. Even the developer can't argue against that because, as stated in the petitioner's presentation, the closed loop is inaccessible. That's the point of the closed loop. Nobody can use it except North Point. Using eminent domain or condemnation for this purpose is unconscionable and indefensible. And this agreement obligates Joliet to support and to enact the eminent domain because that's done by the municipality. My second point is about the west side, the new area in purple there. So North Point specifically states in this agreement that they do not need any of the proposed bridges to get building permits for land west of Route 53. So I'm gonna do a little math problem here because the proposal has no buildings. So there's no way to know where any of the warehouses are, unlike the proposal in Elwood where they were included. This proposal is incomplete and doesn't have any of the buildings included. And I apologize, I actually wanted to do a PowerPoint for you tonight to make this easier to understand. I also only got the draft annexation agreement in the evening on Tuesday. I had already put in calls to the Plan Commission for the rules of this hearing. I did not get a response until a day later, at which point I was told it was too late to submit a PowerPoint because it needed to be reviewed for its content. So that's why I have to do this mental math with you right now. I apologize for that. So if we assume that warehouses cover 25% of the land, which I have read is approximately how warehousing and hospitals and things are built, that is approximately 10,000 square feet of warehouse per acre. And so this proposal has over 500 acres west of 53. So conservatively, that would allow North Point to build 5 million square feet of warehouses on the west side before there's any existence of bridges or closed loops. They don't exist yet. That's the way the agreement is written right now. So if I'm just gonna put that in perspective, like my only perspective is the Amazon fulfillment warehouse on Manhattan-Money Road at around Route 57. That, if you've been there at shift change, you'll know that they actually have to bring the police out to get people in and out of that fulfillment center. That's a 1 million square foot warehouse, 1 million. So North Point can build 5 Amazon fulfillment warehouses on the west side of 53 before there's any closed loop or any kind of bridge or control of the trucks, whether they're short trucks or whether they're semis. And so in my opinion, this is going to be a catastrophic traffic situation that will exist before they're ever obligated, as it states in the agreement, to put a down payment on a bridge. My third point is about the closed loop. So I'm a physicist, I work in a hospital, and in physics, we have something we call the law of conservation of mass, and actually an earlier speaker had a great explanation of this, so I won't take too long. But what the law of conservation of mass means is that if you have a certain amount of stuff in one location and you move it to another location, it doesn't get smaller. It's the same amount of stuff. And so in this case, we have this closed loop. The trucks pick up the goods at the rail, they move into a warehouse where either they're sorted or manufactured. So the total amount of stuff that travels within the closed loop has to leave the closed loop eventually, or else everything piles up in Compass Business Park. You know, it's not a closed system where everything can go inside and nothing can leave. And so there's quite obviously the same amount of truck traffic that is spinning around inside the closed loop has to leave Compass Business Park, and there's no language in the agreement that obligates North Point to have their trucks leave the park directly to an interstate. It's not in there. They say that they're going to design a closed loop. It doesn't say that the trucks can't leave the park and that the trucks have to leave the park on an interstate. It's not in there. I read it very carefully. You can look for it yourself. The trucks will leave the park using local township municipal roads to access local highways and interstates, especially at the beginning when there's no opportunity to even go to an interstate directly. My fourth point is something I want to remind you of. I'm sure you're aware of it. The Joliet zoning ordinance, if you have a chance to look at that on page 21, there's the following definition. Planned unit development. The planned unit development is a development of a parcel of land which provides greater flexibility and originality in the design of large-scale projects and promotes good site planning, better design provisions for open spaces, and higher standard for light and air. This is the Joliet zoning ordinance. This is an enormous project that will have innumerable negative effects on residential areas, and it now weaves its way through neighborhoods and homes of Joliet citizens. There is actually a PUD, a planned unit development, hiding inside this agreement for the property to the far east side there, to my right, the sort of gun-shaped thing, that's a PUD, because those poor people there were in the last agreement. The people who got into this agreement here, all those poor people living on Millsdale Road, all those developments, you see them, why are they not in a PUD? Why do they get the short end of the stick? Why is there not a planned unit development for every part of this park that has any border with a residential area? That makes no sense. I don't understand why you wouldn't hold the developer to a higher standard. They're even aware of the fact that they should be held to a higher standard. That's why they put that PUD in there, in the small part on the far east side. So I'll summarize. I believe that the agreement should be modified in 4 ways before you would even consider this. First of all, I think all language referring to Joliet's obligation to perform eminent domain and condemnation should be removed from the agreement. And any circumstance where North Point would like to argue that these measures are justified for the public good should be done on a case-by-case basis. There should be no circumstance where Joliet's obligated to actually condemn somebody's property because of this agreement. It could be done at the time that it's proposed. It should be case-by-case. You're taking somebody's property. Second, I don't think there should be any building permits granted for either the west or east side of the park until the bridges are built. The loophole in this agreement that allows North Point to build on the west side without constructing the bridges will create a predictable traffic catastrophe in our neighborhoods. And I personally believe that this is intentional to put pressure on us, the public. We've been doing this since 2017. I know every person in this audience right now. And they're probably trying to find a way to put pressure on us to stop fighting these bridges. And one way to do that is to make a catastrophe of the area. To slip in 5 million square feet of warehouses, make this such a disaster that everybody's gonna say, okay, just build that bridge. We're just not gonna fight it anymore. So I think that that's actually not an accident that this is in there in this proposal. Third, I think the language of the agreement should require the trucks to leave the park using an interstate route, and it should explicitly state that it should go to Route 55 or go over the proposed, or the Hobart Road Bridge, which isn't built yet, that will give them access to 80. That should be explicitly stated in there, and it should be for semi-tractor trailers and short trucks. Because as a previous speaker said, there's no restrictions right now on short trucks. And in the 103 acre proposal, you remember that all was a short truck proposal. So that the closed loop doesn't do anything for us if this entire park or the whole west side of this park is serviced by short trucks. And finally, I think the entire agreement should be submitted as a planned unit development. I'm sure they do too, they just don't admit it. There has never been a project in Joliet that will more negatively affect the lives of human beings and the natural areas more than this project. If there is a time to hold the developer to a higher standard, the time is now. Thank you for your time. Please say no to North Point.
Michelle Peterson.
Okay, promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Michelle Peterson, I live in Jackson Township. I'm here today speaking as a concerned resident and taxpayer who will be negatively impacted by this development. Today, I urge you to vote no to annex land and approve North Point's Compass Business Park proposal and development. The proposal is in the wrong location, it's nowhere near the interstate, and the infrastructure in the area can't accommodate this project. I was at the Noel Park community meeting, and Tom George stated that this will create less pollution. I couldn't disagree more with this statement. It will concentrate more pollution in one area. Developments like this need to be by an interstate. His logic is that he was stopping warehouses from being built in Romeoville and Bolingbrook and all other surrounding areas in and around the interstate. He did not tell us how they were gonna stop that building in Romeoville, Bolingbrook, or any other city, town, or village, or how that was a mystery. It only adds to more pollution, commuters, and trucks, period, and that would have grave effects for the public. Actually, Mr. George showed a slide, and I believe this project needs to be near an interstate. That's exactly where something like this should be, with less impact on the taxpayer's dollar and the taxpayer. He showed us the perfect location for this development, actually. It's Pontoon Beach, Illinois. Look it up. They have ample interstate access and their relationships with BNSF. Maybe they could do an intermodal there. It's not that far from here. It would disperse the pollution and it'll create the jobs there, and we'd be able to get those China goods here across the Midwest the same way. Concentration of developments like this proposal in this one area right here is not a smart idea. Who's gonna fill the low-paying warehouse jobs once the unions build it? No one. The market is very oversaturated here with the same types of jobs, temp and regular warehouse jobs. There are thousands of listings of jobs right now. Look it up for yourself, Indeed.com. Thousands of unfilled jobs right in this area. I have a submission for the records. I'll give it to the person when I'm done. I researched it last night. 15,377 warehouse-related jobs listed on Indeed.com last night at 5:30 in and around Joliet. I'll say that number again, 15,377. It's very near homes in Preston Heights, Ridgeview, Cedar Creek, and Knoll Road. It'll negatively impact them and everyone's quality of life in the whole area. Where is that traffic impact study? Have you asked for it? You need that study to make the proper vote on this proposal. Where's the pollution study? Have you asked for it for your constituents? How can you make an informed decision without it? The surrounding area is farmland and homesteads, rich, fertile farmland, some of the best in the nation. The area is not blighted. It's of great economical use to our county, country, state, and our nation. It's proudly made in America as one of our largest exports, corn and soybeans. It's proven to be a vital asset of America. The closed loop network doesn't work. Compass Business Park, or Center Point development has proved that. And per the agreement in front of you today, you and they can put traffic onto any local road at any time when needed, at any time. The proximity of the development and the relationship to Midewin and Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery is highly concerning. Protect the veterans, their families, and the visitors to Midewin. Protect our treasures along Route 66. It's historic. Compass Business Park places a financial tax burden on the Joliet residents, several townships, other villages, and their taxpayers near the proposed development. Calls for traffic, fire, accident, police, all that's gonna arise and increase. Plus all the taxpayer money it costs to fix the roads. For an example, Chicago Street, right there by IAED was redone, and months, not years later, it's already showing wear and tear. It's gonna be detrimental to Olive County if you approve this monstrosity. The taxpayers can't handle any more tax increases. Illinoisans are leaving the state due to high taxes. IDOT can't handle fixing the roads, and the current condition of the roads in and around Joliet and Will County are atrocious. It would be irresponsible to add more logistics. The cost is simply too much for the taxpayers in the city, county, and all of Illinois. There are several things to consider when putting in a huge development. Location, it's the wrong area. It's not near an interstate. What's the impact on the existing land and the residents? What is the added traffic impact to the surrounding areas? What is the pollution impact? The plan is proven to only keep growing and growing and gobbling up our American-made commerce in this area. Vote no to Eastgate Logistics Compass Business Park. It's not the right place. It'll never be the right time. An informed, well-thought-out decision cannot be made at this time. You must consider all public comments and concerns. It's a public hearing. It's your job. You're a public servant. Good public servants listen to the public. They visualize the future and see how trends can contribute to their communities and which trends can cause public harm and are detrimental to the area and our nation. Be the public servant that sees the right vision for the future to make it better, not worse. Vote no. Thank you.
Mike Peterson?
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Michael Peterson, resident of Jackson Township. I'm gonna go where no one else has went tonight. We all seen the ships out on the ports waiting to get in. That is because our ports are antiquated and cannot handle the inflow right now. So why did we need the warehouse spaces? Excuse me, I get very nervous. Right now, there's more containers than there are trailers in the United States. China does not want back any given trailer right now. Say you pull into the yard in LA, you have a green container. They say, no, we're not taking any green containers. And there the green container sits on a trailer. A trailer is only good if it can pull a container. So it's just a waste. Right now, you could probably pick up a container for storage in your backyard for next to nothing, which is another waste of metal. And, you know, it's just a debacle. So, a lot of it, that's it. Just say no. Thank you.
Trisha Moss?
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
State your name and address, please.
Trisha Moss, Village of Elwood is where I'm from. I lived in Will County for over 30 years. During that time, I earned my associate's degree from Joliet Junior College. Then I transferred to the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, where I graduated. I have been a resident of the Village of Elwood for about 10 years. I have been a trustee of the Village of Elwood since 2019. Today, I'm expressing my stance on North Point Developers' proposed industrial park in Joliet. I will point out the obvious reasons why I oppose the project. The supposedly closed loop would not alleviate traffic conditions. Vehicles still have to enter and exit to distribute goods, as it was noted earlier. The project would be a detriment to our area, causing negative impacts to two of our national treasures, Medewan Tallgrass National Prairie and Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery. It would also cause a burden on our already crumbling infrastructure and crowded roads. I have asked North Point on several accounts to answer items from the Will County's Friendly Freight Mobility Plans Future Development Checklist, but they have never answered them. I sent FOIA requests to the city of Joliet regarding the checklist, yet I have come up empty-handed with the response of no correspondences were found. That was pretty upsetting. The checklist has about 53 items covering several areas involving how to make a successful future large freight development. This checklist is an incredible tool to use, and I don't know why I can't get my hands on these answers. They say they answer the questions and that they pass with flying colors. That was actually noted in previous meeting. But if that were the case, why don't they share their answers? North Point organization has only proved that this project is full of questionable promises, half-truths, and unproven claims. North Point representatives will say that the project is going to bring jobs, therefore residents complain about the traffic it will bring. North Point's response in the past has been that jobs are being replaced by machines and that traffic will actually decrease, not increase. Realistically, either way, traffic will increase because they are building something where farmland mostly stands. Their business representatives state that their project will not cause lost trucks, yet they know there is a need to put a truck turnaround for lost trucks. How do they know that their turnaround is even big enough? They don't, they are guessing. In general, trucks will use their GPS device, most likely not Google Earth, and seek out the fastest route. What are the odds that the lost trucks would actually use, or lost trucks, what are the odds that lost trucks will actually use the truck turnaround? No one knows for sure. Lost trucks is one of the main reasons the National Cemetery has tractor trailers driving over veterans and their loved ones' graves. North Point representatives state that their industrial park in Edgerton is just like the proposed project. However, that industrial park, Edgerton, Kansas City, is much closer to the expressway than the one they are planning to build in Illinois. Furthermore, Edgerton project is not located by national treasures. Since 2017 to today, I have been to countless meetings, public hearings, town halls, and good neighbor open houses that I can say that I have a good understanding of what type of company North Point is. They have been trying, but they're still failing, and the type of development which is proposed. It's not good, especially when they are pinning municipalities against each other, Joliet and Elwood and Manhattan, and also Gardner and Edgerton. The company's representatives say everything and anything under the sun to get their way. The proposed industrial park is a poor use of the land which it wishes to build. I spoke with Edgerton, Gardner Edgerton School Superintendent. She told me not to believe any promises that North Point states because they will not keep them. North Point says whatever it takes in order to get the amount of yeses they need to get a project approved. That's an end quote. Figure out a better plan to approve, because what you're voting on is not worth the stress that it will cause your city and surrounding areas. I ask that you vote no on this proposal If you do vote yes, I would ask that the Community Benefit Committee place at least one board member from each town, surrounding town, one Will County board member that represents the district, at least one resident from each subdivision that the plan encroaches, especially if they don't get bought out, which I think that you should really open up your span of where you would be able to buy out some houses. Have some respect for the people that live there. And at least 2 police officers, one from Joliet and another one from Will County. Other random questions and concerns I had was that complete the comprehensive plan. If it is complete, make it known. How can you make this huge of a decision if you do not have the comprehensive plan in place? It doesn't make sense. Do you have a plan for Elwood K through 8 students to get to and from school safely and on time? Think about the little ones waiting outside while a wayward tractor trailer is turning around in one of the cul-de-sacs that they're gonna make. Do you have a plan for the high school students from the surrounding areas to get them to school safely and on time? Because there's not a plan right now. Be a good neighbor to Elwood and Manhattan. And it's for the specific one, be a good neighbor to Elwood. Take out the part where you would be burdening Elwood roads and our residents. Make sure you place specific details in the annexation, because without details, all they will be is broken promises. I know what I'm about to say is my opinion, but the map of their project seems like a utopia. It's great for you guys, what it looks like, but what actually is going to happen is going to be a disaster. I'm going to end with my 5 Ps. It's proper planning prevents poor performance. There needs to be more planning. You guys need to have more evidence in your hands to make this decision, make a responsible decision. Get the details in the annexation proposal before voting on this project. If not, I ask that you vote no. Thank you.
Mary Baskerville.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'll swear you in first. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Mary Baskerville, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Will County Environmental Network tonight. And then separately, I'm a member of the Sierra Club. I live in Manhattan. In fact, I just returned from our meeting earlier this afternoon before I got here around 4 o'clock, where we ended our meeting as we do every meeting. We pledge to give your pledge as an American to save and faithfully defend from waste the natural resources of my country, its soil and minerals, its forest and wildlife. And we have said that pledge since the network was formed in 1981. And specifically tonight, I come before you because of the wildlife, the natural areas, and our veterans at the Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery, and the beautiful restoration work that's being done at Medewan. And North Point's proposal threatens both. The pollution, the noise, the traffic are a threat to those 2 natural areas. The network voted today to ask that you consider the impacts on a depleting water aquifer, and also to question how the additional impact on the aquifer and the water will cost residents in Joliet for their water. Second question is, what is the plan for handling an increased amount of traffic on Interstate 80, Interstate 55? Because as other people have said, the closed loop doesn't address that. When you speak of the quality of life in Will County and the quality of life in Joliet, you have to go back to my perspective, which was as a person in the 60s and 70s, very proud to call Joliet my hometown. Proud to look at that emblem up there and see Crossroads of Mid-America. But at that time, Crossroads of Mid-America meant that we had access. We had roads that were working. We had Interstate 55 and eventually Interstate 80. And we had people moving through the region and coming to the region. I don't want to see Will County become known for gridlock. And a perfect example of that is Route 53 and Laraway Road. And Laraway Road being now a major disaster if there is any kind of stop on the train there on Laraway Road. 53 backs up. It took me 15 minutes this afternoon to travel the 1 mile on Laraway Road between 53 and Brandon Road. So think about the idea that planning should, and at its best, does look at the impacts of the region. And make no mistake, this impact is not on Elwood, not on Manhattan, not on just Joliet, but it's on the region. And if we want our region to thrive, you have to look at the impact on the region. And the last thing I would like to respond to was the real estate appraisal, the slide that said, Elwood actually has gone up in value. Maybe, and perhaps, and I think this probably has a good amount of reason behind it, prices are going up there because Elwood's leadership is fighting to protect the environment, fighting to protect their residents. And Joliet, I hope, it's my hometown, I hope that Joliet will consider the impact on a region and once again work to make Joliet and Will County someplace that people want to come to work. Nobody wants to sit in gridlock. Nobody. And it's somebody asked about the long-term plan for traffic, for the long-term plan for developments. We need to say that it does matter what the long-term plan is, and it matters about good planning, and it doesn't equal anybody's idea of good planning to have industrial sprawl. Joliet has dedicated thousands of acres to industry and also thousands of acres to the intermodals. There should not be a need to expand and have industrial sprawl. Thank you.
Rachel Ventura.
Hello. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Rachel Ventura, I live in Joliet. I'm a Will County board member. I'm here in that capacity. I'd like to point something out, and I might not get the wording right, but Tom George said today that they had an admirable 30 hours of public hearings. What I'd like to point out is this has been going on for 4 years. And everyone who is sitting in this room today has been here for 4 years and has been arguing this or have brought on their neighbors all throughout. This is not the first rodeo we've been to, whether it was Elwood or here before, Joliet before. They've also petitioned at Will County. And what you are seeing time and time again are people who are stepping up, who are protecting their lives, their healths, their homes, their neighborhoods, their communities, their schools. It goes on and on. And yeah, there are some people in the audience today who are supporting and protecting their jobs, and I get that. 2 years ago, when this was before the city council, I presented 1,200 petitions We will be going back to the community to ask them with this new project to also speak out about it. But there was 1,200 petitions who asked for the city to vote no on this project. That's a lot of people telling you that this is not okay. You all sit in a unique situation and position to have vision for the city. I know some of you personally, and you live here, and you love Joliet, and I know you want to see it do good too. And this is your opportunity to take that vision and say, is this the development we want? Are these the jobs we want? Is this the traffic we want? Is this the increased tax burden that we want? Or do we have bigger vision than that? Can we bring in better industries than trucking and logistics and warehouse and other pollution-driven ideas? I know you're all very intelligent and you can see that vision, and you know that this is not the best thing for Joliet. From a standpoint of the jobs you sit in, you do have to work with local governments. So I saw Manhattan Township was here, spoke out against this project. Jackson Township was here, spoke out against this project. Joliet Township was not given notice. So you'll need to send notice to the surrounding townships. I'm here from Will County, and we did speak about the freight study. It is virtually impossible for you to finish our friendly community freight study questionnaire without first doing a traffic impact. I would like to read a few questions. This is directly from our questionnaire from the Will County. Does the community plan identify major freight movement, facilities, infrastructure, and networks? Has the result been incorporated into local planning and transportation policies? Have key facilities, infrastructure, or networks been coordinated with neighboring municipalities, townships, and the county? Have key facilities, infrastructure, or networks been coordinated with IDOT? Is the proposed development consistent with the community's land use plan? If the area is in proximity to residential or other sensitive areas, has mitigation measures been taken? Have development plans been reviewed to determine the impact of the existing freight corridors or facilities? If impacts exist, which we know they do, have appropriate designs or mitigation measures been proposed to avoid conflicts? And we're not talking about just a bridge over 53. We're talking about all of those impacts, including I-80, 55, and other roads that we don't have exist that people have asked for, like the Illinois-Indiana tollway coming in. Is the location of the project in close proximity to highways, freight facilities, or railroads to promote freight consolidation? Do the freight movements and anticipation forms of development conform with the requirements of neighboring jurisdictions to ensure seamless freight movement? Has collaboration with neighboring jurisdictions occurred? We obviously see it's not. You've had testimony today of local governments saying that they do not want this here. Have higher tier transportation agencies been notified to propose freight corridors or designated truck routes? Have appropriate freight corridors and freight connectors been planned? Have restrictions for freight weights, widths, and heights been evaluated for proposed freight corridors? Does the development plan provide for access to the necessity workforce it requires? Is the development located within reasonable proximity for potential worker residential locations? We have a housing shortage in Will County. So they talked about this area was supposed to be for residents. We need houses here. We desperately need all kinds of houses. So you're gonna bring in 10,000 more workers. If you don't have the houses for them, what communities are they coming from? Is that what you want Joliet to be? People coming from other areas, throwing their trash out the window, onto our streets, tearing things up, not paying tax dollars, and having low wages on top of that. So not spending money in our businesses and our communities. So you have to ask yourself, if you're not providing homes for these people to live here, they're not living in our communities, which means they don't care about our community. Is the development located in reasonable proximity to potential workers' residence locations? If not, does the plan provide for transit or rideshare programs to meet with workforce demands? To my knowledge, the developers have not met with PACE or Metro to work those things out. Are there plans for sufficient retail and occupation services to meet the needs of the proposed employees in the community? Has planning been done to support freight and truck supportive developments such as fueling, maintenance, storage, and truck parking? You guys have heard before that people do not want the truck stops here. And so how are you going to support the traffic that's coming and going? Where are they going to fuel up at? And I'm not reading all of them, I'm selecting a few of these. This is you guys should definitely look into this because this is what is impacting our area. Have other uses been considered for the design? Again, thinking about the vision of what Joliet can be. Have buffers, berms, and screening been provided with necessity to reduce visual, noise, and light impacts or adjacent uses? Has a noise study been conducted for significant noise generation uses and appropriate mitigations proposed? And I've got 4 left here. Has the plan been evaluated from a comprehensive safety perspective? Have fire protections and law enforcement been involved in the review of this project? Fire protection agencies have come before you and asked you to vote no on this. They feel they do not have the required safety mechanisms to take care of this. The city of Joliet is currently down several police officers. My understanding is they don't have the funding to hire more. So again, you don't have the protective services that you need for an industry like this. Has the impact of employees' shift change and the numbers of anticipated workers been evaluated? Are adequate traffic and management measures in place to mitigate the impacts from peak employment activity in the project? These are all questions that have come before you. This will increase the tax burdens of people who are here. The environmental impacts of water and air and other pollutions will have also health impacts on our residents. How many millions of dollars have you asked the developers of North Point to put in to mitigate these long-term effects? Because we will be paying those costs one way or the other. And if you've not asked for millions of dollars, the question is why? At least Elwood was gonna get $20 million out of it. We settled for 6 in the last agreement. That's embarrassing. These are low salary jobs once this warehouse is built. So I understand that they will be union labor jobs going in, even though North Point has reneged on union jobs in the past and is in lawsuits over those things. But I ask, where's the solidarity? If all we ever do is subsidize low-wage jobs, then we prevent future growth. Our country just passed an infrastructure bill, which means a lot of jobs, and not just jobs in buildings and roadways, but in broadband and renewable energy, in companies like Lion Electric, manufacturing jobs. We have the ability to bring those high-paying jobs here. Not the 99 temp agencies that currently bring low-paid workers into Centerpoint that would then fill the warehouses of North Point, but actually good-paying jobs that would elevate Joliet into an era of economics we haven't seen since the city was first built. So if we all advocate for better jobs and better infrastructure for long-term, that means growth for everyone. That means growth for the building trades in this room. That means growth for teachers, universities, hospitals, IT. A lot of different industries will benefit from that. But if we continue to subsidize the low-wage jobs, it will only prevent future growth. It will close businesses and it will increase the tax burdens of those who stay here. Where is the solidarity in that? And the last thing I ask you to do is to not just listen to all of the facts and what your job responsibilities are and what the people are saying, but to their hearts. Today we listened to a woman move to tears. We listened to a man who was so nervous he could barely speak at this podium. We watched a woman come in with her brand new baby. We have politicians here. We have union workers who are all asking, how many more people and what type of people have to come before you and ask to stop? This is our home. We want to protect it. And you all know in your heart that this is not the project for it. So please be brave enough to vote no to this. Thank you.
Carol Mulvihill.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your name and address, please.
Carol Mulvihill. I live in Joliet. I have a cousin who lives in Elwood. It used to be a nice drive via Route 6, Brandon Road, and Manhattan Road to get to her house. Now it's a two-handed drive because of the trucks and trucks and trucks. And if you get between two trucks, it stinks. I am against any more trucks or North Point or whatever they're calling themselves today. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, is there anyone else who has not spoken who would like to speak? Come on up.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State your name and address, please.
Hi, I am Kim Crow. I live on International Way in Joliet, right in the Cedar Creek neighborhood. Thank you everyone here who has done tons and tons of research. My home will be right where the Green Road Bridge is being proposed. I am a Joliet taxpayer. This will be literally right outside of my bedroom window. That is what I will have to look forward to if you vote yes to this. I highly encourage you all to vote no on this. We've heard from other townships here, but your Joliet taxpayers are going to be heavily affected by this decision. Not only is my 7-mile commute from my Joliet home to my Joliet work address turned from 15 minutes to 50 minutes on a good day. That is on a good day if I don't hit anything else and no semis try to run me off the road and no warehouse workers have run me into a ditch, which happens on the daily where we live. Those trucks that Mr. Harris spoke about earlier on Millsdale Road, all those cars, those employees pull right out onto 53. They don't care if you're coming. They pull right out in front of you. There's never any police presence there to stop them, and it is a big problem. Some of the other things this committee needs to think about is we've heard from like I said, we've heard from the other townships. That's great. But you need to think about your Joliet taxpayers that are being affected by this. It's not just localized to this area. It's the residents that live further toward Rockdale, all through the Reedswood area. Everybody will be affected through there. We see semis get off on through Rockdale, go Brandon Road, get stuck underneath the viaduct, or they're trying to go from Laraway Road down Brandon Road, which causes huge gridlocks. Every day, several times a day, there's either a semi stuck underneath the viaduct or stuck in the ditch on the side of the road because they tried to turn around when they realized it was a 12-1 clearance when they approached it. Most don't even see that. Bringing these extra trucks in is not going to solve any of these problems. It's going to cause more problems, and it's going to cause a lot of more problems for even people that live in Shorewood, Plainfield. Think about all the extra traffic. The closed loop does nothing for all those extra trucks coming into the intermodal and all the employees coming in through there. It's a safety issue. I live in a nice residential neighborhood. I was a single mom. I was so excited when I got to buy my first house. So ecstatic. But now I have this going in right next door to me. It is a huge disappointment. Words can't even describe how disappointing this is. I love to be able to say I live in Joliet. I love my home. I've lived there for many years. I've been a Joliet resident for over 20 years. But this can't happen. It's a shame to the fact where I just want to get up and run out of here because I cannot live in my home knowing that this is here. We already have, now where I'm at, the kids go to Elwood School. The buses trying to get out on 53 to safely get those children to Elwood School, it's a nightmare. It's dangerous. And if you only could see on a daily what we have to deal with. We have semis pulling into the neighborhood. They get stuck. They can't get out. They don't know how to get out. And then they're driving through people's yards. I could go on and on and on, but these are just a few of the things. I hope you realize that your Joliet taxpayers are going to be dealing with more frequently, and it's going to be a wider spread area as well. Thank you.
Is there anyone who has not spoken who wishes to speak? That being the case, the public hearing is closed.
Okay. Do we have a motion for A-13-21, A-15-21, Z-9-21, and Z-1021?
Motion approved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Rosanellis,
Aye.
Mr. Wunderlich,
Aye.
Mr. Cox,
Aye.
Mr. Crompton,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
I have a few, I want to make a comment here from what I've seen tonight. I think that your board over there doesn't have their homework completely done. I wonder why some FOIA requests from the city of Joliet have not been answered, especially on that traffic study and stuff like that. We were under impression when we voted on this before that the bridge would be guaranteed before anything else could be done, and now it sounds like that might be up in the air. That kind of just scares me. Even though I'm for it, I know a lot of the people that are here have a direct interest because it affects them. I don't see a lot of people from the rest of Joliet that are here, you know, condemning the project, but I understand where you're coming from. But I also feel that this would bring good to Joliet. I almost, at this point, would rather see this taking a little longer and so you can pick your stuff up to speed. So under that auspices, I'm gonna vote nay.
Mr. Perez,
Aye.
Ms. Rohr. Aye. Mr. Kella.
No.
Motion passed.
Yeah, 6-2.
So this will go to City Council December 21st with a recommendation for approval. Carrying on with the agenda, number 7, old new business, not for final action or recommendation, we have none. Number 8, public comments. This section is for anyone wanting to speak regarding non-agenda items and are allowed a maximum of 4 minutes. It is not a question and answer period, and staff and the Plan Commission do not generally respond to public comments. Please note speakers who engage in conduct injurious to the harmony of the Plan Commission shall be called to order by the presiding officer and may forfeit the opportunity to speak. Is there anybody that wants to speak on non-agenda items?
Trisha Mass, Elwood, Illinois. I want to see a comprehensive plan complete. Says that's the reason why you did not up the boundary agreement with Elwood. Manhattan's boundary agreement is coming up. The plan needs to be finalized. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we can move to adjournment if you wish.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.